The ICU doors burst open at 2:47 a.m. A dying Green Beret was wheeled in, his combat dog snarling at anyone who approached. 6 doctors declared him gone. But the nurse's aide they'd mocked for months? She walked straight past security, flashed a scar on her wrist, and the beast went silent. When military officers stormed in 30 seconds later and saw her face, one colonel whispered, "We buried you in Yemen." The woman every surgeon had treated like dirt was someone the Pentagon had officially erased from existence. Before we dive in, if this story grips you, stay until the very end. Like this video, drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from so I can see just how far these stories travel. Now let's begin. The fluorescent lights in Mercy General Hospital's emergency wing hummed like dying insects. Rebecca Marsh pushed a medication cart down the corridor, her scrubs wrinkled from a double shift that had already stretched past midnight. Around her, the usual chaos. Trauma bays overflowing, residents shouting orders, nurses darting between rooms like they were dodging bullets. Nobody looked at her twice. Rebecca was the kind of person hospitals barely noticed. 32 years old, brown hair always tied back in a messy bun, dark circles under gray eyes that had stopped expecting anything from anyone. She worked as a certified nursing assistant, the lowest tier in the medical hierarchy. The person who changed bedpans, restocked supply closets, and absorbed abuse from doctors who couldn't be bothered to learn her name. "Hey you," a resident barked from Bay 3. "Get me more gauze, now." Rebecca didn't respond, just turned the cart around and headed toward the supply room. On her way, she passed Dr. Marcus Hyland, the ER's chief trauma surgeon. 6'3", salt and pepper hair, the kind of arrogance that came from saving lives and knowing it. He was mid-conversation with another doctor, laughing about something Rebecca couldn't hear. When she squeezed past with her cart, Hyland didn't move an inch. "Excuse me," Rebecca said quietly. Hyland glanced down like she was a fly buzzing near his ear. "Maybe try not blocking the hallway next time." The other doctor smirked. Rebecca bit the inside of her cheek and kept walking. 3 years. She'd been here 3 years, every day the same script. Invisible until someone needed something, then blamed when anything went wrong. She'd applied for nursing school twice. Both times rejected. Not enough experience, they said, not the right profile. What they meant was, not worth the investment. Rebecca grabbed the gauze and returned to Bay 3. The resident snatched it without a word. She went back to her cart, logging inventory on a clipboard that nobody would ever read. That's when the call came through. "Incoming trauma," someone shouted from the ambulance bay. "Military transport, GSW, internal hemorrhaging, cardiac arrest en route. ETA 2 minutes." The entire ER shifted gears instantly. Hyland strode toward the trauma bay, snapping orders. Nurses scrambled. Equipment rolled into position. Rebecca stepped aside, pressing her back against the wall as the controlled chaos swept past her. She'd learned early, stay out of the way during the big cases. Nobody wanted the nursing aide fumbling around when lives were on the line. The ambulance doors exploded inward. Paramedics sprinted through, rolling a gurney at full speed. On it, a man in his late 20s, combat fatigue soaked in blood, face ghostly pale. An oxygen mask covered his nose and mouth. IVs swung wildly from the gurney rails, and beside him, on the gurney itself, crouched a massive Belgian Malinois. The dog's eyes were wild, teeth bared. A low guttural growl vibrated through the hallway. "Get that animal out of here!" Hyland shouted. One of the paramedics, a wiry guy with sweat pouring down his face, shook his head frantically. "We tried. He won't leave. Bit 2 of our guys already. The handler's dead. This dog won't let anyone near the body." "He's not a body yet," another paramedic snapped. "We got a pulse back once, but it's fading fast." Hyland cursed under his breath. "Fine. Get him into Trauma 1. Animal control's problem, not mine." They wheeled the gurney down the hall. The dog moved with it, never leaving the soldier's side. Its eyes tracked every person in the corridor like it was calculating who to attack first. Rebecca watched from her corner, something cold prickling at the base of her spine. She knew that look, the way the dog positioned itself, the hypervigilance, the refusal to abandon its handler even in a building full of strangers. That wasn't just loyalty. That was training. The gurney disappeared into Trauma 1. The doors swung shut. Through the small window, Rebecca could see doctors surrounding the table, hands moving fast. The dog stood on the floor now, backed into the corner, hackles raised. "Someone sedate that thing before it kills somebody," Highland ordered. A nurse approached with a syringe. The dog lunged. She stumbled backward, dropping the needle. It skittered across the tile. "Forget it," Highland said. "Just keep it contained. Focus on the patient." Rebecca stood outside the door, her hands gripping the cart handle. She should leave, go back to restocking. This wasn't her case, wasn't her problem, but her feet didn't move. Inside, the monitors screamed, "Flatline." The soldier's heart had stopped again. "Charging to 200, someone called. "Clear!" The body jolted. No response. Again, "Clear!" Another jolt. Still nothing. Highland stepped back, his face grim. Time of death, 3:04 a.m. The room went silent, except for the dog. It started to whine, a high, desperate sound that cut through the air like a blade. Then it moved to the table, placing its head on the soldier's chest. Just resting there, waiting. Rebecca's throat tightened. One of the nurses reached for the dog's collar. It snapped at her, teeth clacking inches from her fingers. "Jesus Christ," Highland muttered. "Get security in here. I want this animal removed now." 2 security guards arrived within minutes. Big guys, used to dealing with violent patients and drunk relatives. They moved toward the dog slowly, hands out. "Easy, boy," one of them said. "We're not going to hurt you." The dog growled louder. "Just grab it," Highland said impatiently. "We've got a body to process." The first guard lunged. The dog moved like lightning, teeth sinking into the man's forearm. He screamed, stumbling backward. Blood soaked through his sleeve. The second guard pulled a baton. "I'm putting this thing down." "No," Rebecca said. Everyone turned. She stood in the doorway, her voice barely above a whisper, but something in her tone made them pause. Highland's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" Rebecca stepped into the room. Her hands were steady. Her gaze locked on the dog. "You're going to get someone killed," Highland said. "Get out of here before—" "He's protecting him," Rebecca interrupted. "The dog knows something you don't." Highland's face flushed red. "The patient is dead. That animal is a threat. And you're a nursing aide who needs to remember her place." Rebecca didn't respond. She moved slowly toward the table, her eyes never leaving the dog. "I'm not joking," Highland warned. "Step away, or I'll have you escorted out." Rebecca ignored him. She stopped 3 feet from the dog. It stared at her, muscles coiled, ready. Then Rebecca did something nobody expected. She reached down and pulled up the left sleeve of her scrub top. On the inside of her wrist, barely visible beneath old scar tissue, was a tattoo. A black dagger crossed with a lightning bolt. Faded. Almost gone. But still there. The dog's ears flicked forward. Its growl stopped. Rebecca knelt slowly, extending her hand palm up. The dog sniffed once, twice. Then it sat. The entire room stared. "What the hell?" one of the nurses whispered. Rebecca moved to the soldier's body. She placed 2 fingers against his neck just below the jaw. Held them there. Her face was calm, focused. 10 seconds passed. 20. Then her eyes snapped open. "He's alive," she said quietly. Highland laughed. A short, disbelieving sound. "No, he's not. We called it 4 minutes ago." Rebecca's gaze shifted to him, cold, hard. "Check again." Highland opened his mouth to argue, then stopped. Something in her expression made him pause. He stepped forward, fingers pressing against the soldier's carotid. His face went pale. "There's a pulse," he said slowly. "Faint, but it's there." The room exploded into motion. Nurses rushed back in, equipment powered up. Highland started barking orders again, but his voice had lost its edge. Rebecca stepped aside, her job done. She moved toward the door. "Wait," Highland called. "Who are you?" Rebecca didn't answer, just walked out into the hallway, her hands shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. Behind her, the monitors in Trauma 1 beeped steadily. Alive. Whoosh. For the next 2 hours, Rebecca stayed away from the trauma bay. She went back to her cart, back to her checklist, back to being invisible. But word spread fast. Nurses whispered in the break room. Residents exchanged glances. Even Highland seemed distracted, glancing toward the hallway where Rebecca had disappeared. At 5:30 a.m., the soldier stabilized enough to move to the ICU. The dog stayed with him the entire time, docile now, following the gurney like a shadow. Rebecca was restocking linens on the third floor when she heard footsteps behind her. She turned. Dr. Monica Tran stood there, head of hospital administration, mid-50s, sharp suit, sharper eyes, the kind of woman who ran Mercy General like a corporate machine. "Ms. Marsh," Tran said coolly, "my office, now." Rebecca followed in silence. They walked through empty corridors, past sleeping patients and exhausted staff. Tran's heels clicked against the tile like a countdown. They reached the administrative wing. Tran's office was all glass and steel, cold, efficient, intimidating by design. She sat behind her desk and gestured to the chair opposite. Rebecca remained standing. "Do you want to explain what happened in Trauma 1? Tran asked. "I helped," Rebecca said simply. "You interfered with a medical procedure. You ignored direct orders from Dr. Hyland. You approached a dangerous animal without authorization. The patient was alive. The dog knew it." Tran's eyes narrowed. "You're a nursing aide. You don't make diagnostic calls. You don't override attending physicians. You follow protocol." Rebecca said nothing. Tran leaned forward. "I've reviewed your file. 3 years here, no disciplinary issues. Quiet, reliable, unremarkable." She paused. "Until tonight." "The soldier's alive," Rebecca said quietly. "That's what matters." "What matters," Tran said, her voice hardening, "is that this hospital operates on rules. You broke them, publicly, in front of staff." "So fire me," Tran smiled, a thin, mirthless expression. "I'm considering it. But first I want to know where you learned that tattoo trick, and how you knew the patient wasn't dead." Rebecca's jaw tightened. "Because that," Tran continued, "is not something a nursing aide picks up from a textbook." Before Rebecca could respond, the office door burst open. A man in a dark suit strode in without knocking. Late 40s, military posture, eyes like granite. Behind him, 2 more men in identical suits. Tran shot to her feet. "Excuse me, you can't just—" The man pulled out a badge. "Special Agent Dawson, Defense Intelligence. This facility is now under temporary federal jurisdiction." Tran's face went white. "What?" Dawson's gaze shifted to Rebecca. His expression flickered just for a second. Surprise. Maybe recognition. "Ms. Marsh," he said carefully, "we need to talk." Rebecca's hands curled into fists at her sides. Tran looked between them, confusion spreading across her face. "What's going on?" Dawson ignored her. "The soldier you treated tonight, Sergeant Kyle Braddock. He was part of a classified extraction team operating in hostile territory. His medical transport was compromised. We have reason to believe someone inside the evacuation chain tampered with his care." "Tampered how?" Tran demanded. "His IV medications were altered mid-flight. If he'd arrived at a standard civilian hospital, he would have died within minutes. No questions asked." The room went silent. Dawson's eyes stayed locked on Rebecca. "But he didn't die. Because someone here knew exactly what to look for." Rebecca's pulse hammered in her ears. Tran's voice cracked slightly. "I don't understand. She's just a—" "She's not," Dawson interrupted. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folder, dropped it on the desk. Inside were military documents, photos, mission reports. And at the top of the first page, a name Rebecca hadn't heard spoken aloud in 7 years. Captain Rebecca Marsh, 75th Ranger Regiment, combat medic. Tran stared at the file, her mouth open. "This can't be right." Dawson's voice was quiet, controlled. "Captain Marsh was declared killed in action during a Black Ops mission in Yemen. Official records list her body as unrecovered." "Then how, Because," Dawson said, his gaze never leaving Rebecca, "she didn't die. She disappeared." Rebecca's hands were shaking now. Not from fear, from something older, deeper. "You can't be here," she said, her voice hoarse. "You classified me as dead. That was the deal." "The deal," Dawson said coldly, "was that you stay invisible. You don't draw attention. You don't use your training. You sure as hell don't save the life of a Special Forces operator in front of 20 witnesses." "What was I supposed to do? Let him die?" "Yes," Dawson said bluntly. "That's exactly what you were supposed to do." The words hung in the air like poison. Tran's face had gone from pale to red. Someone better start explaining what the hell is happening in my hospital. Dawson turned to her, his expression flat. Dr. Tran, I need you to understand something very clearly. What happens in this room does not leave this room. You will not discuss Captain Marsh's identity with anyone. You will not alter her employment records. You will not ask questions. And if I refuse? Dawson smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Then you'll find yourself under federal investigation for security violations. I hear that's a career killer for hospital administrators. Tran's jaw clenched, but she nodded stiffly. Dawson looked back at Rebecca. You and I are going to have a longer conversation. But first, we need to secure Sergeant Braddock. Someone tried to kill him once. They'll try again. Why? Rebecca asked. Because he knows something. Something worth covering up. What? Dawson hesitated. Then, we're not sure yet, but 3 other members of his team have died in the past 6 weeks, all listed as training accidents. Rebecca's blood ran cold. Someone's cleaning house, Dawson continued, and whoever it is has resources, money, access. They got to Braddock's transport. They'll get to him here if we're not careful. So move him, Rebecca said. Military facility, secure location. Can't. He's too unstable to transport, and if we pull him out now, whoever's watching will know we're onto them. Dawson paused. Which means he stays here, with you. No, Rebecca said immediately. I'm done with this. I walked away. You walked away 7 years ago, Dawson shot back. Tonight you walked right back in. Whether you like it or not, you're involved now. Rebecca wanted to argue, wanted to scream, but she knew he was right. Tran cleared her throat. If this soldier is a target, my hospital is at risk. Your hospital, Dawson said, will be protected. We'll have agents stationed throughout the building, but nobody can know why. As far as anyone's concerned, we're here for routine security debriefing after a military transport incident. And her? Tran nodded toward Rebecca. She goes back to work. Business as usual. Nobody suspects the nursing aide. Rebecca laughed bitterly. You want me to keep mopping floors while someone tries to kill a patient? I want you to keep him alive, Dawson said, the way you did tonight. Because right now, Captain, you're the only person in this building I trust. The weight of those words settled over her like a lead blanket. Tran stood abruptly. I want full legal indemnity for this facility, in writing, before anything else happens. Dawson pulled out a phone. You'll have it within the hour. He gestured toward the door. Tran left, her heels clicking angrily down the hallway. Dawson waited until her footsteps faded. Then he turned back to Rebecca. I know what you gave up, he said quietly. I know what it cost you to disappear, but Braddock's one of ours, and he's holding information that could burn the entire chain of command if it gets out. What kind of information? The kind people kill for. Dawson moved toward the door, then paused. Watch your back, Captain. If they figure out who you are, they'll come for you next. He left. Rebecca stood alone in the empty office, her reflection staring back at her from the dark window. 7 years. 7 years she'd spent burying the woman she used to be, building a life so small, so quiet, that nobody would ever look twice. And now, in one night, it was all unraveling. She closed her eyes, steadying her breath. Then she walked out of the office and headed straight for the ICU. The intensive care unit was quieter than the ER, but no less tense. Machines beeped steadily. Nurses moved between rooms with practiced efficiency. Rebecca badged through the security door and made her way to room 6. Sergeant Kyle Braddock lay unconscious, his chest rising and falling with the help of a ventilator. IVs snaked from both arms. Monitors tracked every heartbeat, every breath. The dog sat beside the bed, head resting on the mattress. Its eyes followed Rebecca as she entered. She pulled up a chair and sat down. For a long time, she just watched the monitors, the steady rhythm, the proof of life. Then she noticed something. A small bruise on Braddock's forearm near the IV site, darker than it should be, slightly swollen. Rebecca leaned closer, her fingers brushing the skin gently. The bruise wasn't from the IV needle, it was from an injection, a second puncture mark, carefully hidden beneath the existing line. Her stomach dropped. Someone had accessed Braddock's IV while he was in transit, added something to the drip that wasn't supposed to be there. Rebecca stood quickly, moving to the IV bag hanging above the bed. She checked the label. Standard saline. Nothing unusual. But the tubing. There. A tiny pinprick in the line, just below the drip chamber. Barely visible. Easily missed unless you were looking for it. Someone had injected something directly into the line. Rebecca grabbed gloves from the wall dispenser and carefully disconnected the IV bag. She sealed it in a specimen bag and tucked it under her arm. Evidence. She turned to leave and froze. Dr. Marcus Hyland stood in the doorway. "Working late?" he asked casually. Rebecca's pulse spiked. "Couldn't sleep." Hyland stepped into the room, his eyes flicking to the specimen bag under her arm. "What's that?" "Contaminated IV. Sending it to the lab. Hospital protocol is to report contamination to the attending physician first." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "That would be me." Rebecca held his gaze. "I'll make sure to file the report." Hyland moved closer, too close. "You know, I've been thinking about tonight, about how you just happened to know that patient was alive, about that tattoo, about the way federal agents showed up an hour later asking questions. What's your point?" "My point," Hyland said slowly, "is that you're not who you pretend to be." Rebecca's hand tightened on the specimen bag. "Neither are you." Hyland's expression darkened. Behind him, the dog growled low in its throat. Hyland glanced at the animal, then back at Rebecca. "Careful, Miss Marsh. Accidents happen in hospitals all the time." He turned and walked out. Rebecca exhaled shakily. Her hands were trembling again. She looked down at the IV bag in her hands, then at Braddock, still unconscious, still vulnerable. And she realized with cold certainty this was just the beginning. Rebecca locked herself in the staff bathroom on the 3rd floor and pulled out her phone. Her hand still shook as she dialed the number Dawson had left with her before disappearing into whatever shadows federal agents crawled back into. He answered on the first ring. "What happened?" "Hyland knows something's wrong," Rebecca said quietly, her voice echoing off the tile walls. "He cornered me in Braddock's room, made threats." Silence on the other end. Then, "What kind of threats?" "The kind that sound casual until you realize they're not." She stared at her reflection in the mirror above the sink, pale, exhausted, looking every bit like the nobody she'd pretended to be for years. "He's involved, Dawson. I don't know how deep, but he's protecting someone." "You have proof?" Rebecca glanced down at the specimen bag containing the contaminated IV. "Maybe. There's a second injection site on Braddock's line. Someone tampered with it after the paramedics hooked him up." "When?" "Had to be in the ambulance or right when they brought him in, before I got there." Dawson cursed under his breath. "Anyone could have accessed that IV during the chaos. Hyland, the paramedics, even the nurses." "Yeah, but Hyland's the one threatening me about it. That doesn't make him guilty. Just makes him suspicious." Rebecca wanted to argue, but he was right. Suspicion wasn't evidence. And in a building full of exhausted staff working back-to-back shifts, anyone could have slipped something into an IV line without being noticed. "Bring me the bag," Dawson said. "I'll have it analyzed, but Rebecca—" He paused. "If Hyland is involved, confronting him was stupid. These people already killed 3 operators. They won't hesitate to add you to the list." "I didn't confront him. He confronted me." "Same result. You're visible now." Rebecca hung up without saying goodbye. She stared at her phone for another 10 seconds, then shoved it back in her pocket and walked out into the hallway. Morning shift was starting. New faces flooded the corridors, fresh nurses, day shift residents, administrative staff who'd slept through the chaos of the night. The hospital felt different in daylight, cleaner, more organized, less honest about what actually happened inside these walls. Rebecca made her way downstairs, the specimen bag hidden inside her supply cart. She was supposed to meet Dawson in the loading dock behind the hospital, neutral ground where hospital cameras didn't reach. But halfway down the corridor, someone grabbed her arm. She spun, her body automatically shifting into a defensive stance before her brain caught up. Monica Tran stood there, her expression unreadable. "My office. Now." "I'm in the middle of—" "I don't care." Tran's grip tightened. "You have 2 choices. Come willingly, or I call security and have you escorted. Your pick." Rebecca's jaw clenched. She followed. They walked in silence again. through the same sterile hallways, past the same judgmental glass walls. Tran's office looked different in daylight, less intimidating, more corporate. Just another administrator's kingdom built on forms and liability waivers. Tran closed the door and locked it. Rebecca remained standing. "Sit," Tran ordered. "I'm fine here." Tran moved behind her desk, pulled out a file, and dropped it on the surface with a heavy thud. "Do you know what this is?" Rebecca didn't answer. "This," Tran said, opening the file, "is your employment record. 3 years of mediocrity. No disciplinary issues, no commendations, no ambition. You show up, do your job, and disappear." She looked up. "Except that's not really you, is it?" Rebecca's expression stayed neutral. Tran leaned forward. "I've spent the past 4 hours digging into your background, and you know what I found? Nothing. No college records, no prior employment history, no references beyond a single letter from a nurse in New Mexico who conveniently retired 6 months after writing it." She paused. "It's almost like someone created you out of thin air." "People start over," Rebecca said quietly. "It's not illegal." "No, but lying on a hospital application is." Tran's eyes narrowed. "You claimed nursing assistant certification from a program in Albuquerque. I called them. They have no record of you." Rebecca's pulse quickened, but her face didn't change. Tran stood, circling the desk. "So here's what I think happened. Someone, probably your friend Dawson, built you a fake identity, got you this job, kept you hidden." She stopped inches from Rebecca's face. "The question is why?" "You already know why. I know the official story. Dead soldier comes back to life. Very dramatic." Tran's voice dropped. "What I don't know is what you're really doing here. Are you spying on my hospital, running surveillance, using us as cover for some black ops mission?" Rebecca almost laughed. "You think I mopped floors for 3 years as part of a covert operation?" "I think," Tran said slowly, "that you're a weapon someone pointed at my hospital. And now that you've been activated, people are going to get hurt. The only person who's been hurt is the soldier upstairs who almost died because someone poisoned his IV." Tran's expression flickered, just for a second. But it was enough. "You know about the tampering," Rebecca said. "I know," Tran replied carefully, "that federal agents are crawling through my facility, making accusations without evidence. I know that a nursing aide with a fake background suddenly has clearance to override my trauma surgeon, and I know that if this turns into a scandal, it's my career that gets destroyed." Rebecca understood then. Tran wasn't protecting the hospital, she was protecting herself. "Here's what's going to happen," Tran continued. "You're going to take a leave of absence, effective immediately, paid, so you can't claim retaliation. You'll stay away from this facility until the federal investigation concludes." "No." Tran's jaw tightened. "That wasn't a request. Braddock needs protection. If I leave, he's exposed. He has federal agents. He doesn't need you. Those agents aren't here 24 hours a day. I am." "Not anymore." Tran walked back to her desk and pulled out a pre-written termination notice. "Sign this, or I'll have you arrested for trespassing." Rebecca stared at the document. Everything she'd built, the quiet life, the anonymity, the safety of being nobody, was evaporating in real time. She thought about walking away, about letting Dawson handle it, about disappearing again, the way she'd been trained. Then she thought about Braddock lying unconscious upstairs, with someone in this building actively trying to kill him. "No," she said again. Tran's face flushed red. "You don't have a choice." "Everyone has a choice." Rebecca turned toward the door. "Mine is keeping that soldier alive. Yours is deciding whether you're going to help or get in the way." She unlocked the door and walked out before Tran could respond. Behind her, she heard Tran shouting something about security, about lawsuits, about consequences. Rebecca kept walking. She made it halfway to the loading dock before her phone buzzed. "Dawson. Don't come to the dock. Compromised. Meet me in parking garage, level 3, northwest corner. 10 minutes." Rebecca changed direction, heading toward the staff elevators. Her mind raced through scenarios. If the loading dock was compromised, someone had been watching, tracking her movements, which meant they knew she had the IV bag, which meant they knew she was a threat. The elevator doors opened. Rebecca stepped inside and jabbed the button for the parking garage. The doors started to close. A hand shot through the gap. Dr. Hyland stepped into the elevator. Rebecca's body tensed instantly. She shifted slightly, putting her back against the corner where she had the widest view of the small space. Hyland smiled. "Fancy meeting you here." "I'm busy." "I'm sure you are." He pressed the button for the second floor. The elevator hummed as it descended. "You know, I've been thinking about our conversation earlier, about how you knew Braddock was alive when everyone else missed it." Rebecca didn't respond. "At first I thought maybe you just got lucky. Right place, right time. Beginner's intuition." Hyland turned to face her fully. "But then I started noticing other things. The way you move, the way you assess people. That tattoo." The elevator reached the second floor. The doors opened. Hyland didn't get out. Instead, he reached over and hit the emergency stop button. The elevator jolted to a halt. Alarms didn't sound. Hyland had used an override key. "Let's have a real conversation," he said quietly. Rebecca's hand moved instinctively toward her pocket, where she'd hidden a scalpel from the supply cart. Old habits. "Who are you working for?" Hyland asked. "The hospital, same as you." "Don't insult my intelligence." He stepped closer. "Federal agents don't show up for random trauma cases. They don't lock down ICU rooms. They don't threaten hospital administrators with legal action unless something much bigger is happening. Maybe you should ask them." "I'm asking you." Hyland's voice hardened. "Because here's what I know. That soldier upstairs isn't just some grunt who got shot overseas. He's carrying information a lot of powerful people want buried." Rebecca's fingers closed around the scalpel. "What kind of information?" "The kind that gets people killed." Hyland tilted his head. 3 of his teammates are already dead, accidents, they said, but we both know better." "We?" Hyland smiled. "You're not the only one with secrets, Miss Marsh. Or should I say, Captain?" Rebecca's blood turned to ice. "Oh yes," Hyland continued. "I know exactly who you are. Captain Rebecca Marsh, 75th Ranger Regiment, declared KYA 7 years ago in Yemen. Except you're standing right here, very much alive, pretending to be a nursing aide." Rebecca's hand tightened on the scalpel. "How do you know that?" "Because the people I work for have access to files even your friend Dawson doesn't know exist." He leaned against the elevator wall, casual, confident. "They sent me here 2 years ago, embedded me as chief of trauma. My job was to watch for exactly this kind of situation." "What situation?" "Operators going rogue, soldiers who survive missions they're supposed to die on, witnesses who need to be silenced before they talk." Hyland's smile faded. "You were never supposed to surface, Captain. You were supposed to stay dead." Rebecca pulled the scalpel out, holding it low at her side. "And Braddock? He saw something he shouldn't have, recorded it, sent it to someone before his team got hit." Hyland pushed off the wall. "My job is to make sure he never wakes up to tell anyone what's on that recording." "You poisoned his IV." "I adjusted his medication. There's a difference." "Not to him." Hyland shrugged. "He's a loose end. Loose ends get tied up. That's how the world works." Rebecca's mind raced. Hyland wasn't just involved. He was the primary agent. The one tasked with killing Braddock inside the hospital where no one would question a trauma patient dying from his injuries. "What's on the recording?" she asked. "I don't know. Don't care. Not my job to ask questions." Hyland reached for the override key. "But here's what is my job. Making sure you don't cause any more problems." He twisted the key. The elevator lurched back into motion. Rebecca moved. She drove the scalpel toward Hyland's hand, not to kill, just to disable. But Hyland was faster than she expected. He caught her wrist, twisted hard. The scalpel clattered to the floor. They grappled in the tight space, bodies slamming against the walls. Hyland was bigger, stronger, but Rebecca had training he didn't anticipate. She drove her knee into his ribs, broke his grip, spun behind him. The elevator doors opened on the first floor. 2 nurses stood there, staring in shock. Hyland immediately straightened, smoothing his coat. "Sorry about that. Dr. Marsh here lost her balance. I was just helping her." The nurse's eyes darted between them, uncertain. Rebecca's chest heaved. Her wrist throbbed where Hyland had twisted it, but she forced herself to nod. "I'm fine." "Thank you, Dr. Hyland." The nurses stepped aside. Hyland walked out first, glancing back once with a warning in his eyes. Rebecca followed, her hands shaking with adrenaline and rage. She had confirmation now. Highland was the killer. But confronting him in an elevator with witnesses had been monumentally stupid. If he reported the attack, she'd be arrested. If he didn't, it meant he was planning something worse. Rebecca made it to the parking garage 15 minutes late. Dawson's black SUV sat in the northwest corner, engine running. She climbed into the passenger seat and handed him the specimen bag without a word. Dawson took one look at her face. What happened? Highland. He's the one who poisoned Braddock. Dawson's expression darkened. You're sure? He admitted it. In the elevator. Said he was sent here to tie up loose ends. Did anyone else hear this? No, just me. Dawson cursed. Then it's your word against his, a disgraced captain versus the chief of trauma. Guess who the hospital believes? Rebecca wanted to scream. So what do we do? We get proof. Real proof. Not just testimony. Dawson pulled out his phone and made a call. I'm sending a team to analyze this IV bag. If we can trace the substance back to Highland, we've got him. How long will that take? 48 hours, maybe less. Braddock doesn't have 48 hours. Highland knows we're onto him. He'll make another move. Dawson met her eyes. Then you need to stay close to Braddock. Don't let Highland near him. Tran just tried to fire me. She's banning me from the hospital. Can she enforce it? Rebecca thought about the termination notice sitting unsigned on Tran's desk. Not yet, but she will. Then buy time. Avoid her. Stay in the ICU. If security tries to remove you, call me immediately. Dawson handed her a small black device. A panic button. Press this if you're in danger. Response time is under 3 minutes. Rebecca pocketed the device. What about Highland? Leave him to me. I'll have agents watching him. If he so much as breathes near Braddock's room, we'll know. Rebecca climbed out of the SUV. Her entire body ached, from exhaustion, from the fight, from 3 years of pretending to be weak finally catching up to her. She walked back into the hospital through the service entrance, avoiding the main lobby where Tron's security teams would be looking for her. The ICU felt like enemy territory now. Every nurse could be a spy. Every doctor could be complicit. The walls had eyes, and Rebecca felt them watching. She made it to Braddock's room without incident. The dog lifted its head as she entered, then settled back down. Braddock's vitals had improved. His breathing was stronger. The ventilator settings had been reduced. Rebecca pulled up a chair and sat down, her eyes fixed on the door. Hours passed. Nurses came and went. None of them questioned her presence. To them, she was just another aide keeping watch. Invisible again. At 2 p.m., Braddock's eyes opened. Rebecca stood immediately. Hey, you're okay, you're safe. Braddock blinked slowly, disoriented. His hand reached for the ventilator tube in his throat. Don't, Rebecca said gently. You're intubated. I'll call the doctor to remove it, but you need to stay calm. Braddock's eyes focused on her face. Recognition flickered, not of her specifically, but of what she represented. The tattoo, the way she carried herself. He tried to speak around the tube. It came out garbled, desperate. Rebecca leaned closer. What? He tried again, his hand gripping her wrist with surprising strength. Recording, he managed to rasp. They have it. Who has it? But Braddock's eyes rolled back. The sedation pulled him under again. Rebecca stood frozen. They have it. Not I have it. Not it's hidden. They. Which meant the recording, whatever Braddock had witnessed, wasn't with him. Someone else had it. Someone Highland and his people were also looking for. Rebecca's mind raced. If Highland didn't have the recording, why kill Braddock? Unless Braddock was the only person who knew where the recording was. Or who had it. The door opened behind her. Rebecca spun. A nurse entered. Young, maybe mid-20s, carrying a tray of fresh IV bags. Just doing the rotation, she said with a tired smile. Rebecca watched her closely. The nurse moved efficiently, disconnecting the old IV, hanging a new one. Standard procedure, too standard. Rebecca's instincts screamed. Wait, she said. The nurse paused, her hand on the IV line. I need to check that bag first. The nurse's smile tightened. Hospital protocol. Pre-sealed bags don't need verification. Humor me. The nurse's eyes flickered toward the door. Just for a second. Rebecca moved between her and Braddock. Step away from the IV. You don't have the authority. Step away. Now. The nurse's hand moved to her pocket. Rebecca saw the syringe a split second before the woman lunged. They collided hard, slamming into the equipment cart. The dog exploded into action, barking and snapping. The nurse twisted, trying to drive the syringe toward Rebecca's neck. Rebecca caught her wrist, slammed it against the bed rail. The syringe fell. The nurse drove her elbow into Rebecca's ribs. Pain exploded through her chest. She stumbled back, gasping. The nurse grabbed the syringe from the floor and dove toward Braddock's IV line. Rebecca tackled her from behind. They crashed to the ground, the dog circling and snarling. The door burst open. Security guards poured in, shouting. They grabbed both women, pulling them apart. "She attacked me," the nurse screamed. "She's insane!" Rebecca struggled against the guard's grip. "Check the syringe! She was trying to kill him!" One guard picked up the syringe from the floor, held it up to the light. "It's empty," he said. Rebecca's stomach dropped. The nurse had already injected something, not into the IV line, into her own wrist. A failsafe. If she got caught, she'd die before she could talk. The nurse's eyes rolled back. Her body convulsed once, then went limp. "Get a crash cart," someone yelled. But Rebecca knew it was too late. Whatever poison the woman had taken was fast-acting, designed to leave no trace. Security dragged Rebecca into the hallway. More guards arrived. Dr. Tran appeared, her face twisted with rage. "Get her out of my hospital," Tran ordered. "Now!" Rebecca didn't fight. She let them escort her toward the elevator, her mind spinning. The nurse had been a professional, trained, prepared to die rather than be interrogated, which meant this conspiracy went deeper than just Highland. The elevator doors opened. Security shoved her inside. As the doors started to close, Rebecca saw Highland standing at the end of the hallway. He was smiling, and in his hand, he held a keycard. Braddock's ICU room keycard. Rebecca slammed her hand against the elevator panel before the doors could fully close. They jerked back open. The security guards grabbed for her, but she was already moving, ducking under one arm, pivoting past the second guard, sprinting back down the corridor. "Stop her!" someone shouted. She didn't stop. Highland stood 20 feet away, that keycard still in his hand, watching her with the calm expression of someone who'd already won. He turned toward Braddock's room. Rebecca closed the distance in seconds, slamming into him with her full weight. They crashed against the wall. The keycard flew from his grip, skittering across the polished floor. "You made a mistake," Highland hissed, shoving her back. "Assaulting a physician in front of witnesses." Rebecca's fist connected with his jaw before he finished the sentence. His head snapped sideways. Blood spattered from his lip. Security guards swarmed them. Strong hands yanked Rebecca backward, pinning her arms. She thrashed, but there were too many of them. Highland straightened slowly, wiping blood from his mouth. His eyes held pure venom now. "Get her out of this building. If she comes back, call the police." "You're going to kill him," Rebecca said through gritted teeth. "I'm going to save him." Highland picked up the keycard from the floor. "Unlike you, I'm actually a doctor." The guards dragged Rebecca toward the service exit. She fought every step, boots scraping against tile, but it was useless. 4 men versus 1 exhausted woman who hadn't slept in 30 hours. They shoved her through the door into the loading dock. The metal door slammed shut behind her with a sound like a prison gate closing. Rebecca stood there, breathing hard, her knuckles split and bleeding from where they'd connected with Highland's face. Then she pulled out her phone and pressed Dawson's number. It rang 4 times before going to voicemail. She tried again. Voicemail. Damn it! Rebecca pulled out the panic button Dawson had given her and pressed it hard. Nothing happened. No sound, no vibration, no response. She pressed it again. Still nothing. The device was dead, or jammed, or never worked in the first place. Rebecca's mind raced through options. She could call 911, but what would she say? That a trauma surgeon was trying to kill a patient with no evidence beyond her word? They'd think she was insane. Hell, half the hospital already did. She could try to force her way back inside, but security would arrest her immediately. Tran had probably already called the police, which left exactly one option. Rebecca ran toward the parking garage. Her car was parked on the second level, a 15-year-old Honda Civic that barely passed inspection. She'd bought it with cash 3 years ago, specifically because it was unremarkable, the kind of vehicle nobody looked at twice. She fumbled with her keys, hands shaking from adrenaline, got the door open, slid behind the wheel. The engine turned over with a rattling cough. Rebecca pulled out of the space and drove toward the exit, forcing herself to go slow. Normal. Just another hospital employee heading home after a long shift. The security booth at the parking garage exit was empty. She pulled through without stopping. Once she hit the main road, Rebecca grabbed her phone and tried Dawson again, straight to voicemail. "Something's wrong," she said into the phone. "Highland has access to Braddock's room. The panic button's dead. I need backup now." She hung up and immediately called the one other person who might believe her. The phone rang 3 times before a groggy voice answered. "Marsh? It's 3 in the afternoon. Why are you—" "Tommy, I need your help." Sergeant Tommy Vickers had served in the same ranger unit as Rebecca before she'd disappeared. He'd been injured during a training exercise 6 months after she'd been declared dead, lost most of his left leg below the knee, and got a medical discharge. Last Rebecca had heard, he was working private security somewhere in Arizona. "Jesus, Becca, I thought you were dead." "Long story. I need you at Mercy General Hospital in Phoenix, right now." "What's going on?" "Someone's trying to kill a Special Forces operator. The hospital's compromised. Federal agents are MIA. I'm out of options." Silence. Then, "Give me 40 minutes." "I don't have 40 minutes." "Then give me 30 and pray." The line went dead. Rebecca drove in circles around the hospital, keeping the building in sight. She parked across the street in a pharmacy lot with a clear view of the ICU windows. Braddock's room was on the 3rd floor, northeast corner. The blinds were closed. Rebecca pulled a pair of binoculars from her glove box, another relic from her previous life that she'd never quite managed to throw away. She focused on the window, waiting for movement. Minutes crawled past. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "Stop interfering, or you're next." Rebecca's jaw clenched. She typed back, "Come try." No response. She kept watching the window, saw shapes moving behind the blinds. 2 people. Maybe 3. Her phone rang. Dawson. "Where the hell have you been?" Rebecca demanded. "My phone was scrambled. Someone hit us with a signal jammer." Dawson's voice was tight. "I just got your message. Where are you?" "Outside the hospital. Security kicked me out. Highland's in Braddock's room right now." "My agents are still inside. I'll have them—" "Your agents are compromised," Rebecca interrupted. "The nurse who tried to kill Braddock? She walked right past them. Either they're incompetent or they're working with Highland." Dawson cursed viciously. "I'm 20 minutes out. Do not go back inside that building. 20 minutes is too long." "Rebecca, listen to me. These people have already killed 4 operators. They've got assets inside the hospital, inside law enforcement, probably inside my own agency. If you go in there alone, you will die." "Then Braddock dies for sure. He's a soldier. He understood the risks. He's a witness, and you're supposed to protect him." Rebecca hung up. She sat there for another 60 seconds, watching the window. The shapes moved closer to the bed. One of them was definitely Highland, tall, broad-shouldered, distinctive even in silhouette. Her phone buzzed again. Text from Tommy. 15 minutes out. Don't be stupid." Rebecca put the phone down and stared at the hospital. Every logical part of her brain screamed to wait, to let the professionals handle it, to stay invisible the way she'd been trained. But the other part, the part that had dragged dying men off battlefields, that had held pressure on wounds while mortars fell around her, that had sworn an oath to protect people who couldn't protect themselves. That part wouldn't shut up. Rebecca grabbed the scalpel she'd stashed under the driver's seat and shoved it in her pocket. Then she got out of the car and walked straight toward the hospital's main entrance. The lobby was busy with afternoon visitors. She kept her head down, moving quickly toward the stairwell. Nobody stopped her. To everyone else, she was just another hospital employee in scrubs. She took the stairs 2 at a time. Her legs burned by the 2nd floor, but she didn't slow down. 3rd floor. ICU level. Rebecca pushed through the stairwell door and nearly collided with the nurse she recognized, Sandra, one of the older ICU nurses who'd been working there longer than Rebecca. Sandra's eyes went wide. "You can't be here. Tran issued a ban." "I know. Security's looking for you." "I know that too." Rebecca moved past her. "Stay out of that ICU for the next 10 minutes. "What's going on?" Rebecca didn't answer. She walked straight toward Braddock's room. The dog started barking before she reached the door. She pushed it open. Highland stood beside Braddock's bed, a syringe in his hand. The IV line was already connected. His thumb was on the plunger. "Don't," Rebecca said. Highland didn't move. "You should have stayed gone." "Probably." Rebecca pulled the scalpel from her pocket. "But I'm here now." Highland glanced at the blade, then back at her face. "You think that scares me? Should it? I have 6 inches and 80 pounds on you. You're exhausted. You've got no backup. And the moment you attack me, every camera in this hospital will show you assaulting a physician." Highland's smile was cold. "You lose either way." "Maybe." Rebecca took a step closer. "But you still die." Highland's smile faded. For the first time, something like uncertainty crossed his face. The dog growled low in its throat, ears flat against its head. "Last chance," Highland said. "Walk away. I'll tell Tran it was a misunderstanding. You keep your freedom. I finish my job. Everyone wins. Except Braddock. He was dead the moment he got on that helicopter." Highland's thumb pressed slightly on the plunger. "This is mercy." Rebecca moved. She covered the distance in 2 strides, driving the scalpel toward Highland's hand. He jerked back, pulling the syringe away from the IV line. The needle caught his thumb instead. He yelped, dropping the syringe. It hit the floor and shattered. Pale liquid spread across the tile. Rebecca kicked it away from them both. Whatever poison Highland had planned to use, she didn't want it anywhere near skin contact. Highland's face twisted with rage. He lunged at her, hands reaching for her throat. Rebecca sidestepped, drove her elbow into his kidney. He grunted, but didn't go down. Spun and caught her wrist, twisting hard. The scalpel fell from her grip. They grappled beside the bed. Highland slammed her against the wall. Her head cracked against concrete. Stars exploded across her vision. "You stupid bitch," Highland snarled. "You think you're saving him? He's already gone. His team's gone. Anyone who knows what's on that recording is gone." Rebecca drove her knee into his groin. Highland's grip loosened. She shoved him backward. The dog launched itself at Highland's leg, teeth sinking deep into his calf. Highland screamed, trying to shake the animal off. Rebecca grabbed a metal bedpan from the supply cart and swung it with everything she had. It connected with Highland's temple with a sound like a baseball bat hitting a watermelon. Highland dropped like a puppet with cut strings. The dog released his leg and backed away, still growling. Rebecca stood over Highland's unconscious body, breathing hard. Her hands shook. Blood dripped from a cut above her eye where he'd slammed her into the wall. The door burst open. 2 security guards rushed in, followed by 3 more. Behind them, Monica Tran, her face pale with shock. "She attacked Dr. Highland," one guard shouted. "Get her on the ground." They swarmed Rebecca. She didn't fight this time. Just let them force her down. Let them cuff her hands behind her back. Tran stared at Highland's body. "Is he dead?" One guard checked his pulse. "No, but he's out cold." "Call an ambulance and get the police here immediately." Tran's voice was shaking. "I want her arrested." Rebecca lifted her head from the cold tile. "Check the syringe." "What?" "The broken syringe on the floor. Test what's in it." Tran looked at the shattered glass, the spreading liquid. "That's just medication." "Test it anyway." "I'm not taking orders from you." "Then ask yourself why a trauma surgeon was injecting an ICU patient without documenting it, without orders from any attending physician, without notifying nursing staff." Tran's expression flickered. "Ask yourself," Rebecca continued, "why that nurse who died earlier was carrying an unregistered syringe. Why she took cyanide the moment she got caught. You're insane." "Then prove it. Test the liquid. Check Highland's phone records. Pull security footage from the ambulance bay." Rebecca's voice was steady, despite the pain radiating through her skull. "Or just hand me over to the police and hope the federal investigation doesn't find evidence that you ignored an assassination attempt in your own hospital." Tran's face went white. One of the security guards spoke up quietly. "Ma'am, maybe we should wait for the feds. That Agent Dawson said he was coming back." Tran stood frozen for a long moment. Then she pulled out her phone and made a call. "I need a hazmat team in ICU room 6 immediately. Unknown substance on the floor. Nobody touch it." She hung up and looked at Rebecca. "You better pray you're right about this." "I am." "If you're not, you're going to prison for assault, battery, and practicing medicine without a license." And if I am? Tron didn't answer. Footsteps thundered down the hallway. More security. Then federal agents in dark suits, then Dawson himself, his face grim. He took in the scene. Highland unconscious, Rebecca cuffed on the floor, broken glass spreading poison across the tile. Jesus Christ, he muttered. Then to Tran, I need everyone out of this room except my people. This is my hospital. Us. Not anymore. Dawson pulled out his badge. As of right now, this room is a federal crime scene. Anyone who interferes is obstructing a federal investigation. Tran's jaw clenched, but she gestured for the security guards to leave. They filed out, throwing uncertain glances at Rebecca as they passed. Dawson knelt beside her. You okay? Been better. He helped her sit up, then pulled a key from his pocket and unlocked the cuffs. Rebecca's wrists were raw where the metal had bitten into skin. That was incredibly stupid, Dawson said. Worked, though. Barely. He stood and moved to where two agents were carefully collecting samples of the liquid on the floor. What am I looking at? Poison, Rebecca said. Highland was about to inject it into Braddock's IV. I stopped him. Dawson's expression darkened. He walked over to where Highland lay unconscious, stared down at him for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. I need a full background check on Dr. Marcus Highland, Chief of Trauma at Mercy General. Everything. Military service, financial records, known associates. I want it 20 minutes ago. He listened for a moment, then his face went rigid. Say that again, he said quietly. Rebecca watched his expression change from anger to something worse. Something like resignation. Dawson hung up, looked at her. Highland's real name is Marcus Holland, former Army intelligence officer, dishonorably discharged 8 years ago for selling classified information to a defense contractor. Which contractor? Redstone Security Solutions. Rebecca's blood turned cold. Redstone was one of the largest private military corporations in the world. Billions in government contracts, operations on every continent, enough money and power to make people disappear. They've been under investigation for 2 years, Dawson continued. Allegations of fraud, bribery, illegal weapons sales. But every witness who agreed to testify ended up dead before trial. Braddock saw something, Rebecca said. Something that could bring them down. Not just saw. Recorded. Dawson pulled out a tablet and opened a file. We finally cracked his phone. There's encrypted video on it. Timestamp matches his last mission, 3 months ago in Syria. What's on it? Dawson turned the tablet toward her. The video was grainy, shot from a helmet camera. It showed a warehouse at night. Inside, wooden crates stamped with U.S. military markings. Men in civilian clothes loading them onto trucks. Then the camera zoomed in on one man's face. Rebecca recognized him immediately. Everyone would. Senator Richard Carver, chairman of the Armed Services Committee. Third-term senator from Texas. A man who controlled billions in military spending. He was personally overseeing the theft of U.S. weapons to be sold on the black market. They weren't just stealing weapons, Dawson said. They were staging them, making it look like enemy forces captured them. Then Redstone would sell them to the highest bidder and split profits with Carver. How much? Preliminary estimates? North of $3 billion over the past 5 years. Rebecca stared at the screen. He's gonna walk. Not if we can protect Braddock long enough to testify. They've already tried to kill him 3 times. They'll try again. Which is why we're moving him tonight. Secure facility, new identity, full protection. You moved the other witnesses too, Rebecca said. They still died. Dawson's jaw tightened. I know. You have a leak. I know that too. So what's different this time? Dawson met her eyes. This time, you're coming with him. Rebecca blinked. What? You're the only person who's kept him alive so far. The only one those bastards haven't been able to kill. Dawson lowered his voice. I'm reassigning you. Full federal protection detail. You'll be with Braddock until the trial. I'm not an agent. I'm not even active duty anymore. You're a combat medic with special operations experience. You know field medicine better than anyone on my team. And more importantly, he paused. You give a damn. Most of my people are just following orders. You? You'd rather die than let him get killed. Rebecca looked at Braddock's unconscious form, his chest rising and falling steadily, the dog still at his side, vigilant. "When do we move?" she asked. 3 hours. Soon as we stabilize him for transport. They'll be watching. Let them watch. We'll have a convoy. Helicopters. Full tactical team. That didn't save the others. The others, Dawson said quietly, didn't have you. Behind them, Highland groaned, starting to wake up. Dawson gestured to his agents. "Get him in custody. I want him isolated. No phone calls, no visitors, no lawyers until we finish processing the scene." 2 agents hauled Highland to his feet. His eyes were unfocused, blood still trickling from his temple. When he saw Rebecca, pure hatred crossed his face. "You're dead," he slurred. "Senator Carver has people everywhere. They'll find you. They'll kill everyone you've ever known." "Get him out of here," Dawson ordered. The agents dragged Highland toward the door. As they passed Rebecca, he spat at her feet. "You can't protect him forever," Highland said. "Redstone always finishes the job." Then he was gone. The room fell silent except for the steady beep of monitors. Dawson's phone rang. He answered, listened, his face growing darker with each passing second. "Understood," he said finally. "Lock it down. Nobody in or out." He hung up and turned to Rebecca. "We've got a problem." "What now?" "Senator Carver just held an emergency press conference. He's claiming Braddock is a mentally unstable soldier who went AWOL and assaulted his commanding officer. Says the video is a deepfake created by enemies of the state trying to frame him." "That's insane. Insane or not, it's working. His office just released Braddock's psychological evaluation from 2 years ago. Anxiety disorder, PTSD, depression." Dawson's voice was grim. "They're destroying his credibility before he can even wake up." Rebecca felt the walls closing in. "What about the other evidence? The weapons? The money trail?" "Circumstantial. Without Braddock's testimony to authenticate the video, we've got nothing that'll stick in court." "So they win." "Not yet." Dawson grabbed his jacket. "I'm calling in every favor I have. We'll move Braddock to a secure location. Keep him hidden until we can build an airtight case." "How long will that take?" "Months, maybe longer." "He won't last that long. They'll find him." "Then we make sure they don't." Dawson headed for the door. "Get ready to move in 2 hours. Pack light. Where you're going, you won't be coming back anytime soon." He left. Rebecca stood alone in the room with Braddock and the dog. She walked to the window and looked out at the city below. Somewhere out there, a senator was spinning lies. Somewhere, killers were planning their next move. Somewhere, people who trusted her were dying because she'd been too afraid to stay and fight. Not this time. Rebecca's phone buzzed. Text from Tommy. "Outside. Where you at?" She typed back. "3rd floor ICU. Come up." 2 minutes later, Tommy walked into the room. He looked older than Rebecca remembered. Gray at the temples, lines around his eyes, but his shoulders were still broad, his posture still military straight despite the prosthetic leg she could see outlined beneath his jeans. "Hell of a reunion," he said. Rebecca almost smiled. "Thanks for coming." Tommy looked at Braddock, then at the broken syringe on the floor, then at Rebecca's bloodied knuckles and split eyebrow. "Looks like I missed the party." "Just getting started." Rebecca filled him in quickly. Highland, Redstone, Carver, the whole conspiracy. Tommy listened without interrupting. When she finished, he let out a low whistle. "So you're going into witness protection with a comatose soldier while a sitting senator tries to kill you both. That's the plan. It's a terrible plan." "I know." Tommy pulled out his phone and made a call. "Hey, it's Vickers. Yeah, I know it's been a while. Listen, I need assets. Armed, experienced, off books." He paused. "Because the government's compromised and good people are dying. You in or not?" He listened, nodded, hung up. 6 guys, he told Rebecca. "All former military, all people I'd trust with my life." "Dawson won't let civilians?" She. "Dawson's federal. Federal's compromised. You need people with no connection to the system." Tommy's voice was hard. "People who can't be traced, bribed, or threatened." Rebecca wanted to argue, but he was right. Every layer of official protection had failed. Maybe it was time to go unofficial. "Okay," she said, "but we do this my way." Wouldn't have it any other. Footsteps in the hallway. Rebecca tensed, but it was just Dawson returning with a team of agents. Transport's ready, he said. We move now. Change of plans, Rebecca said. Dawson's eyes narrowed. Excuse me? Your protection details compromised. We're going independent. Like hell you are. Senator Carver has people inside your agency, inside law enforcement, inside this hospital. Rebecca stepped closer. How many of the agents standing behind you right now can you personally vouch for? Dawson's jaw clenched. He looked at the men behind him. Most he'd worked with for years. But absolute certainty? That was harder. I trust my team, he said, even after 4 witnesses died under their protection. That hit home. Dawson's expression darkened. I've got 6 contractors, Rebecca continued. Former Rangers, no connection to the system. No names in any database, no ties to Redstone or Carver. Mercenaries. Professionals who won't sell us out for a paycheck. Dawson looked at Tommy, sizing him up. You're coordinating this? If she'll have me. And if I refuse to authorize it? Rebecca's voice was quiet. Then we disappear anyway, without your support. Dawson stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled her aside out of earshot from his team. You're asking me to let an off-books team protect a federal witness. I'm asking you to keep him alive. If this goes wrong, then blame me. Tell everyone I went rogue, that you tried to stop me. Rebecca met his eyes. But we both know your way isn't working. Dawson rubbed his face, exhaustion etched into every line. I could arrest you right now. You could try. He almost smiled at that. You always were stubborn. Learn from the best. Dawson pulled out his phone and made a call. Spoke quietly for 30 seconds, then hung up. You've got 12 hours, he said. After that, I come looking, and if Braddock's hurt, I'm bringing federal charges against everyone involved. Fair enough. Where are you taking him? Better you don't know. Dawson nodded slowly, then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a thumb drive. Everything we have on Redstone and Carver. Proof of the weapon sales, money transfers, communications. If anything happens to me, get this to the press. Rebecca took the drive. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Dawson looked at Braddock. He wakes up, you call me immediately. We'll need his testimony recorded before Carver's people can spin it further. Understood. Dawson turned to leave, then stopped. For what it's worth. I'm glad you're still alive. Me too, most days. He left with his team. Tommy immediately got on his phone, coordinating logistics. Ambulance arrives in 10 minutes. We'll have it repainted and replated by the time we leave the parking garage. Your guy's civilian medic will be in back with you and Braddock. And the dog? Comes with, non-negotiable. 20 minutes later, they wheeled Braddock out through a service exit. Rebecca walked beside the gurney, her hand on his wrist, feeling the steady pulse that said he was still fighting. The ambulance was waiting, unmarked, nondescript, stolen from a medical supply company that wouldn't report it missing until morning. They loaded Braddock inside. The dog jumped in after him. Rebecca followed. Tommy climbed into the passenger seat. Go. The ambulance pulled out into evening traffic. Through the back window, Rebecca watched Mercy General Hospital disappear behind them. Somewhere in that building, Tran was probably calling lawyers. Security was reviewing footage. Staff was spreading rumors. But none of that mattered anymore. All that mattered was the man lying unconscious on the gurney, the evidence on the thumb drive in her pocket, and the testimony that could bring down one of the most powerful men in America. If they could keep him alive long enough to give it. Rebecca checked Braddock's vitals. Stable. Strong. The dog settled beside the gurney, finally calm. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered. Hello? Captain Marsh? The voice was smooth, cultured, unmistakably powerful. My name is Richard Carver. I believe you have something that belongs to me. Rebecca's blood turned to ice. Rebecca's finger hovered over the disconnect button, but she forced herself to stay on the line. How did you get this number? Carver's laugh was quiet, almost friendly. Captain, I know where you were born. I know every school you attended. I know about the coffee shop in Albuquerque where you spent 6 months pretending to be a barista. He paused. I know things about you that even Agent Dawson doesn't. The ambulance hit a pothole. Braddock's monitor beeped steadily. Rebecca kept her voice level. What do you want? To to make you an offer. $1 million, cash. Deposited in any account you choose, anywhere in the world. In exchange for what? You walk away, tonight. Leave Sergeant Braddock at the nearest emergency room and disappear. I'll ensure no charges are filed against you for the incident at Mercy General. Clean slate. Rebecca watched the city lights blur past the window. You're bribing me. I'm compensating you for your discretion. There's a difference. And Braddock will receive excellent medical care, the best money can buy. Right before one of your people finishes what Highland started. Carver's tone shifted slightly. Colder. I won't insult your intelligence by denying my involvement, but understand something, Captain. This situation is bigger than one soldier, bigger than you. The arrangements I've made serve national interests you can't possibly understand. Stealing $3 billion in weapons serves national interests? Redirecting resources to groups who can actually use them effectively? Yes. Carver's voice had the smooth confidence of someone who'd justified worse. The Pentagon wastes billions on equipment that sits in warehouses while our allies beg for support. I simply expedite the process, while pocketing the profits. A finder's fee for services rendered. Captain, I've authorized operations that save thousands of American lives. Do you really want to destroy that because one sergeant saw something he shouldn't have? Rebecca's hand tightened on the phone. He's not one sergeant. He's 4 dead soldiers and counting. Regrettable losses, but necessary to protect operations that have genuine strategic value. You mean protecting your bank account? Carver sighed. I see reason won't work. Let me be clear then. If you don't accept my offer, I will destroy you. Not quickly, not cleanly. I'll start with your brother in Seattle. Yes, I know he exists despite your efforts to hide that connection. Then the girlfriend he's planning to marry next month. Then every person you've ever cared about. Rebecca's blood ran cold. She'd spent 7 years keeping her brother at a distance, protecting him by maintaining total separation. And Carver had found him anyway. You're lying. Am I? His name is David. He teaches high school chemistry, lives at 1847 Maple Drive, goes running every morning at 6:30. Carver's voice was matter-of-fact. Would you like me to continue? Rebecca forced herself to breathe. Touch him and I'll kill you myself. No, you won't. Because you're a soldier who follows rules. I'm a senator who makes them. He paused. You have 1 hour to decide. After that, the offer expires and things become unpleasant. The line went dead. Rebecca sat motionless, the phone still pressed to her ear. Her hands shook with rage and something worse, fear. Real fear, for the first time since Yemen. Tommy glanced back from the passenger seat. What was that? Carver. Rebecca's voice came out hoarse. He knows about my brother. Tommy's expression darkened. How specific? Address, routine, name of his fiancée. Damn. Tommy pulled out his own phone. I've got people in Seattle. I'll have them watching your brother's place within the hour. Carver has billions and an entire security company on his payroll. Your people won't be enough. Maybe not, but they'll buy time. Tommy made the call, speaking in terse military shorthand. Rebecca looked down at Braddock. His face was peaceful, unaware of the storm building around him. The dog's head rested on his chest, eyes closed but ears still alert. She pulled out the thumb drive Dawson had given her and turned it over in her palm. Everything on here could bring down a senator, but only if it reached the right people before Carver's damage control machine buried it. The ambulance turned onto a side road, heading into an industrial area east of the city. Abandoned warehouses lined both sides. No cameras. No witnesses. Perfect place for an ambush. Rebecca moved to the front. Where are we going? The driver, one of Tommy's contractors, a guy named Hayes with a scar running down his left cheek, glanced at the GPS. Safe house about 10 miles out. Old ranch property. Off-grid. Owner's former Delta Force. How long have you known him? Served together in Afghanistan. Saved my life in Kandahar. If Tommy trusts him, I trust him. Rebecca wanted to feel reassured. Instead, she kept seeing David's face. Kept imagining Carver's people watching his apartment, waiting. Her phone buzzed. Text from unknown number. 45 minutes remaining. She deleted it and pulled up her brother's number. They hadn't spoken in 3 years, hadn't seen each other in 7, but she needed to warn him. Her finger hovered over the call button. If she contacted him now, it would confirm Carver's leverage, prove she cared enough to be manipulated. Every tactical instinct screamed not to make that call, but he was her brother. Rebecca pressed dial. It rang 4 times. Then, "Hello?" David's voice. Older than she remembered, but unmistakably him. "It's me," she said quietly. Silence. Then, "Rebecca?" "Yeah." "Jesus Christ, where are you? Are you okay? I thought—" His voice cracked. "They told us you were dead." "I was. I am. Officially." Rebecca closed her eyes. "Listen carefully. You're in danger. Don't go to work tomorrow. Don't go running. Stay inside with all the doors locked until you hear from me again." "What? Why?" "I can't explain. Just trust me." "Becca, you disappear for 7 years and suddenly call telling me to hide? What the hell is going on? There are people who want to hurt me, and they know hurting you is the fastest way to do it." David's breathing quickened. "Are you serious?" "Completely. Call in sick tomorrow. Tell Sarah to do the same." "And David?" Rebecca's voice caught. "I'm sorry for everything, for vanishing, for not being there. Are you coming home?" "I can't, not yet. Maybe never. That's not good enough. It's all I have." Rebecca heard voices in the background on his end, Sarah asking who was calling. "I love you. Stay safe." She hung up before he could respond. Tommy was watching her in the rearview mirror. He didn't say anything, didn't need to. The ambulance pulled onto a dirt road, headlights bouncing over ruts and potholes. A single-story ranch house appeared in the distance, lights off, surrounded by empty desert. Hayes killed the engine 50 yards out. "Standard protocol, we walk in on foot. Confirm secure before we bring the package." Tommy climbed out first, hand on his sidearm. 2 more vehicles pulled up behind them, beaten pickup trucks that looked like they belonged to farmers, not operators. 6 men emerged. All of them moved with the same controlled efficiency. Former military, like Tommy had promised. One of them approached Rebecca. "Ma'am, name's Garcia. Medic, I'll be assisting with the patient." Rebecca nodded. "He's stable but still unconscious. Vitals are strong. No sign of seizures or complications from the poisoning." "Good." Garcia moved to the back of the ambulance and began checking Braddock's IV lines. Tommy returned from the ranch house. "Clear, no signs of forced entry. Owner's not here. He's on deployment overseas." But he left the keys and access codes where he said. They carried Braddock inside on the stretcher. The ranch house was sparse. Military clean. A couch, a table, some chairs. Everything else had been stripped away or never existed. Garcia set up a makeshift medical station in the back bedroom, connected Braddock to a portable monitor. The dog settled beside the bed again, finally relaxing now that they'd stopped moving. Tommy gathered everyone in the main room. Standard security rotation, 2-hour shifts, eyes on all approaches. Anyone unfamiliar comes within a mile of this property, you wake me immediately. "What about comms?" one of the contractors asked. A younger guy, maybe late 20s. "Radio silence unless emergency. Phones off. If they're tracking us, we don't give them signals to follow." Everyone nodded and dispersed to their positions. Rebecca stood at the window, staring out at the darkness. Somewhere out there, Carver was mobilizing resources, calling in favors, activating assets, a sitting senator with unlimited reach and zero accountability. Tommy joined her. "You did the right thing, calling your brother." "Did I? Now Carver knows I care." He already knew. That's why he mentioned it. Tommy pulled 2 beers from a cooler someone had stocked and handed her one. "You're not alone in this anymore. That's what matters." Rebecca took the beer but didn't drink. "How many times have you been in a situation like this? Protecting a witness against a government conspiracy?" "First time." Tommy smiled grimly. "But I've been outnumbered before. Usually works out." "Usually?" "We're still breathing, aren't we?" A phone rang. Not Rebecca's. One of the contractors near the door pulled out a radio, listened. His face went pale. "We've got movement," he said. 3 vehicles heading this direction, black SUVs. Moving fast. Tommy's jaw tightened. "How far?" 2 miles, maybe less." "How did they find us this fast?" Rebecca demanded. Tommy was already moving, checking weapons, shouting orders. The contractors spread out, taking defensive positions at windows and doors. Garcia appeared from the back room. We can't move Braddock. He's too unstable. Then we hold here, Tommy said. Rebecca pulled out the thumb drive. If those SUVs reached them, if Carver's people got inside, this evidence would disappear. She grabbed Hayes by the arm. You have a motorcycle? Yeah, why? Give me your keys. What are you doing? Rebecca held up the drive. This is what they really want. If I take it and run, they'll follow me. Buy you time to move Braddock. That's suicide, Tommy said flatly. It's tactics. I draw them away, you get them to safety, we regroup later. And when they catch you, they won't. Rebecca, we don't have time to argue. She grabbed the motorcycle keys from Hayes and headed for the door. Tommy caught her arm. At least take backup. Backup slows me down. Rebecca met his eyes. Keep him alive, that's the mission. She was out the door before anyone could stop her. The motorcycle was parked behind the house. A dirt bike, designed for off-road. Perfect. Rebecca kicked it to life and tore off into the desert, away from the approaching headlights. The thumb drive was in her pocket, pressed against her ribs. Behind her, she heard the SUVs roar past the ranch house, then brakes squealing, shouting. They'd spotted her. Two of the vehicles broke off, giving chase. Rebecca opened the throttle. The bike screamed across the desert, bouncing over rocks and brush. No headlight, just moonlight and instinct. She had maybe a 30-second lead, maybe less. The SUVs were faster on flat ground, but the bike could go places they couldn't. Rebecca aimed for rough terrain, steep hills, narrow ravines, anything that would slow them down. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She ignored it. The desert stretched endlessly in every direction. No towns, no roads, just emptiness. Perfect place to disappear or die. One SUV got close enough that she could see headlights reflecting off the sand behind her. Someone leaned out the passenger window with a weapon. Rebecca swerved hard left. Gunfire cracked through the night. Bullets kicked up dirt to her right. She cut between two boulders too narrow for the SUV, heard metal scraping as it tried to follow and failed. One down. The second SUV was smarter. It circled around, trying to cut her off from the front. Rebecca spotted a dry riverbed ahead. Steep walls on both sides, narrow bottom. The bike could make it. The SUV couldn't. She aimed straight for it. The bike went airborne for a second as she launched off the edge, then landed hard in the sandy bottom. Pain shot through her spine, but she kept the throttle open. Behind her, the SUV tried to follow. It didn't make the landing. Rebecca heard the crash, metal crumpling, glass shattering. She didn't look back. She rode for another 20 minutes before killing the engine and ditching the bike behind a cluster of rocks. Then she climbed on foot, finding a position high enough to see for miles. No headlights, no movement. Rebecca pulled out her phone. 7 missed calls from Tommy. 3 from Dawson. She called Tommy first. "Where are you?" he demanded. "Safe. Did they reach the house?" "One SUV stayed behind. We handled it." "Casualties?" "3 of theirs. None of ours." Tommy's voice was grim. "But Rebecca, you need to come back. Braddock's waking up." Rebecca's heart jumped. "When?" "Started moving about 10 minutes ago. Garcia says he'll be conscious within the hour." "I'm on my way." "Negative. You've got 2 SUVs hunting you. Leading them back here defeats the whole point." "So what do I do?" "Find somewhere to lay low. I'll send Hayes to pick you up once we're sure we weren't followed." Rebecca looked out at the desert. Dawn was maybe 3 hours away. "I need a computer, something with internet access." "Why?" "Because if Braddock's waking up, we need to get ahead of Carver's narrative, and that means releasing this evidence before he can bury it." Tommy was quiet for a moment. "There's a truck stop about 5 miles east of your position. Should have Wi-Fi." "I'll find it." Rebecca hung up and started walking. The desert was cold at night. She hadn't thought to grab a jacket before running, just her scrubs, the phone, and the thumb drive. Her hands shook, from cold, from adrenaline, from everything that had happened in the past 36 hours. She'd been a nobody, a nursing aide mopping floors and taking orders. Now she was running through the desert at 3 in the morning, carrying evidence that could destroy a senator. Funny how fast things changed. Rebecca walked for 90 minutes before the truck stop appeared. A rundown place with flickering neon and 6 big rigs parked in the lot. Inside, a tired cashier barely glanced at her as she bought a coffee and asked about Wi-Fi. "Passwords on the receipt," he mumbled. Rebecca found a corner booth and pulled out her phone, connected to the Wi-Fi. Opened an encrypted browser she'd installed years ago and never deleted. Then she inserted the thumb drive into her phone using an adapter. The files opened: video footage, financial records, communications between Carver and Redstone executives. Everything meticulously documented. She uploaded it all to an anonymous server, then drafted an email to every major news outlet she could think of: New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, Fox News. She didn't care about politics. She cared about reach. Subject line: Senator Richard Carver, weapons trafficking, proof attached. Body: Senator Carver has been stealing U.S. military weapons and selling them through Redstone Security Solutions for the past 5 years. Total profits exceed $3 billion. Attached is video evidence from Sergeant Kyle Braddock, U.S. Army Special Forces, showing Carver personally overseeing the theft. 4 soldiers who witnessed this operation have been murdered to prevent testimony. Sergeant Braddock is currently in hiding. Release this information immediately, or more people will die. No signature. No identifying information. Rebecca's finger hovered over the send button. Once she pressed it, there was no going back. Carver would know she'd betrayed him, would know the evidence was public, would know his offer had been rejected. She thought about David, about Sarah, about Tommy and his contractors risking everything to protect a soldier they'd never met. She thought about the nurse who'd swallowed cyanide, about Highland's threats, about 3 years of being invisible while people like Carver stole and murdered without consequence. Rebecca pressed send. The email went out to 47 different news organizations simultaneously. She sat back and waited. 30 seconds later, her phone rang. Carver. She answered. Too late. You just made the worst mistake of your life, Carver said quietly. No, you did. 5 years ago, when you started stealing weapons. Those emails will never see daylight. I have relationships with every major outlet, editors who owe me favors, legal teams who will bury this under national security concerns. Maybe. Rebecca stood and walked toward the door. But you can't kill every journalist in America. Someone will publish it. And when they do, your career is over. My career? Carver laughed. Captain, I've been in Washington for 23 years. I've survived 3 investigations, 2 ethics probes, and a recall election. I will survive this. We'll see. No, you'll see, because I'm done offering deals. His voice turned to ice. I'm going to destroy everyone you've ever cared about. Your brother dies first, then Tommy Vickers and his little mercenary team, then Sergeant Braddock, and finally you, slowly, painfully, publicly. You'll beg me to end it before I'm finished. Sounds exhausting. Mock me all you want. But understand this, I have resources you can't imagine. People in places you'd never suspect. You think you're safe in that truck stop outside Maricopa? Think again. Rebecca's blood turned to ice. She spun toward the window. 3 black SUVs were pulling into the parking lot. She dropped the phone and ran for the back exit, slammed through the door into an alley, heard shouting behind her. The truck stop backed onto more empty desert. Rebecca sprinted into the darkness, her lungs burning. Flashlight beams swept the ground behind her, men's voices calling coordinates. She found a drainage ditch and dropped into it, pressing herself flat against the concrete. The beams passed overhead. Boots crunched on gravel inches from her head. She's gone, someone said. Probably had a vehicle waiting. Fan out, check the perimeter. The boots moved away. Rebecca waited 10 more minutes before climbing out. Her scrubs were filthy. Her hands scraped raw from the concrete. But she was alive. She worked her way back toward the road, staying low, moving slowly. A pickup truck pulled over about 100 yards away. Hayes leaned out the window. Get in. Rebecca ran and dove into the passenger seat. Hayes hit the gas before her door was closed. How'd you find me? She gasped. Tracked your phone. Tommy said you'd need extraction. Carver's people almost got me. Yeah, I saw 3 SUVs at the truck stop. We timed this close. Hayes glanced at her. Did you send it? Sent what? The evidence. That's why you went to the truck stop, right? Rebecca nodded. Hayes grinned. Then it was worth it. They drove in silence for 20 minutes. Rebecca kept checking the mirrors, expecting headlights, but the road stayed empty. Finally, Hayes pulled onto the same dirt road leading to the ranch house. Different approach this time, more cautious. Tommy met them at the door. "You look like hell." "Feel worse." Rebecca pushed past him. "Where's Braddock?" "Bedroom. Awake but disoriented." Rebecca found Garcia adjusting IV fluids while Braddock lay propped against pillows. His eyes were open but unfocused. The dog's head was on the bed, tail wagging slowly. "Sergeant Braddock," Rebecca said gently. "I'm Rebecca. You're safe." His eyes found her face, struggled to focus. "Hospital?" "Not anymore. You're at a safe house. Do you remember what happened?" Braddock's brow furrowed. "Mission, Syria, saw something." His hand moved weakly toward his chest. "Recording. Need to. We have it. Already sent to the press." "Carver?" "He knows, but it's too late. The evidence is public." Braddock's eyes closed. Relief flooded his expression. Then, "My team?" Rebecca's throat tightened. "I'm sorry." Braddock was quiet for a long time. Then, "They were good soldiers." "I know. How many people died protecting me?" "Too many." Rebecca pulled up a chair beside the bed. "But we're not letting you become another one." Tommy appeared in the doorway. "Turn on the news." Rebecca followed him to the main room. Someone had found a battery-powered television. The screen showed CNN breaking news. Senator Carver accused of weapons trafficking. The anchor's voice was tense. "We're receiving reports that Senator Richard Carver may have been involved in illegal weapons sales through military contractor Redstone Security Solutions. Video evidence allegedly showing the senator at a Syrian weapons depot has been distributed to multiple news organizations tonight. The FBI has declined to comment, but sources say an investigation is underway." The screen cut to footage. Grainy helmet cam video showing Carver overseeing crates being loaded onto trucks. Rebecca's heart pounded. They'd aired it. Despite Carver's connections, despite his threats, someone had published the truth. The news switched to a live feed outside Carver's home in Virginia. Reporters crowded the gate. Police cars lined the street. Then Carver himself appeared, striding toward the cameras with his lawyer beside him. "These accusations are completely false," he said smoothly. "The video is a sophisticated deepfake created by enemies of this administration. I will cooperate fully with any investigation to clear my name. Senator, 4 soldiers connected to this investigation have died. Do you have any comment?" "I mourn the loss of any soldier. But connecting their deaths to fabricated allegations is irresponsible journalism. What about the financial records showing transfers from Redstone to your offshore accounts?" "Doctored documents. This is a coordinated smear campaign." "Senator," Carver walked away, ignoring the shouted questions. The screen cut back to the studio. The anchor looked shaken. "Again, these are allegations at this point. Senator Carver denies all wrongdoing." Tommy muted the television. "He's good. I'll give him that. Too good." Rebecca's hands clenched. "He's going to spin this. Call it fake news. By tomorrow, half the country will believe him." "Not if Braddock testifies." "Braddock can barely sit up, and Carver's lawyers will tear him apart. PTSD, anxiety disorder. They've already laid the groundwork." "So what do we do?" Rebecca stared at the frozen image of Carver on screen. His confident smile, his expensive suit, his absolute certainty that he'd walk away from this. "We give them something he can't deny," she said quietly. "Like what?" Rebecca turned to Tommy. "The dead nurse from the hospital, the one who took cyanide. She didn't work alone. Someone gave her the poison. Someone coordinated the timing. Someone inside Mercy General helped plan the assassination." "You think it's traceable?" "Everything's traceable if you know where to look." Rebecca pulled out her phone and called Dawson. He answered immediately. "I just saw the news. Tell me that was you." "It was me." "Jesus Christ, Rebecca. You just declared war on a sitting senator." "He declared war first. I'm finishing it." She paused. "I need your help. The nurse who died at Mercy General, I need her phone records, financial statements, anything linking her to Redstone or Carver's people." "That'll take time." "We don't have time. Carver's already controlling the narrative. We need proof that connects him directly to murder attempts. Not just weapons trafficking. Actual attempted murder of a federal witness." Dawson was quiet. Then, "I'll make some calls, but But Rebecca, even with that proof, Carver has protection, political connections, immunity for certain. Nobody's immune from murder charges. Senators, or if the Justice Department decides not to prosecute, then we make it impossible for them not to. She hung up. The television flickered, a new alert scrolling across the bottom. FBI raids Redstone Security Headquarters. Rebecca unmuted the sound. "This is a developing story," the anchor said. "Federal agents have entered Redstone Security Solutions' main office in Arlington, Virginia. The raid appears to be connected to tonight's allegations against Senator Carver. We're getting reports that multiple executives are being detained for questioning." The screen showed agents carrying boxes out of a modern glass building. Redstone employees stood on the sidewalk looking shocked. Tommy whistled low. "Dawson works fast." "Not Dawson. The Bureau wouldn't move this quickly unless they already had warrants ready." Rebecca's mind raced. Someone inside the FBI was already investigating Redstone. The video just gave them cover to act. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered cautiously. "Hello? Captain Marsh, my name is Director Patricia Cross. I run the FBI's Public Corruption Unit." Rebecca's pulse quickened. "Ma'am, I've been investigating Senator Carver for 18 months, quietly, carefully, but I didn't have enough evidence to overcome his political protection." Cross's voice was sharp, professional. "Then your video landed on my desk an hour ago, along with medical records from 4 dead soldiers, financial transfers, communications, everything I needed." "So you're arresting him?" "I'm building a case. There's a difference." Cross paused. "But I need your witness. Sergeant Braddock, alive and willing to testify." "He's alive. Not sure about willing yet." "Make him sure. Because without his testimony, Carver's lawyers will bury this. They'll claim the video is fake, the documents forged, the whole thing a political hit job." "What about Highland? He's in custody. He admitted to poisoning Braddock." "Highland's lawyer is already claiming he was coerced, says you attacked him unprovoked, and he doesn't remember anything he said before the concussion." Rebecca's jaw tightened. "Of course he is. So I need Braddock, on record, under oath, willing to identify Carver in that video and testify to what he witnessed." "When?" "I can have a team at your location within 2 hours. We'll take him into federal protective custody. Record his testimony tonight before Carver's people can interfere further." Rebecca looked toward the bedroom where Braddock lay. "He just woke up. He's weak." "I understand, but if we wait, we lose momentum. Carver's already calling in favors. By morning, half of Washington will be defending him. We strike now, or we lose our shot." Rebecca closed her eyes. 2 hours. 2 hours before federal agents showed up. Before Braddock had to relive the worst moment of his life for cameras and lawyers. But Cross was right. They couldn't wait. "Okay," Rebecca said. "Send your team. Stay where you are. Keep him safe. And Captain?" Cross's voice softened slightly. "You did good work tonight. Dangerous work. But good." The line went dead. Tommy was watching her. "Feds coming?" 2 hours. "You trust them?" "No, but we're out of options." Rebecca walked back to the bedroom. Braddock's eyes were closed, but he wasn't sleeping, just resting, trying to conserve strength. "We need to talk," she said quietly. His eyes opened. "The FBI wants your testimony, tonight, on camera, everything you saw in Syria." Braddock's jaw tightened. "They won't believe me." "They have the video. They just need you to authenticate it." "My psych eval says I'm unstable. Carver's lawyers will use that." "Probably." Rebecca sat down beside the bed. "But they'll also have financial records, communications, a dead nurse full of cyanide, a corrupt trauma surgeon, a pattern of murdered soldiers. Your testimony ties it all together." Braddock stared at the ceiling. "My team died because I recorded that video." "Your team died because Carver wanted them dead. That's not on you." "Feels like it is." "I know." Rebecca's voice was quiet. "But if you don't testify, they died for nothing. Carver walks. Redstone keeps operating. More soldiers die." Braddock's hand clenched into a fist. "How do you do this? Keep fighting when everything's stacked against you?" "Honestly," Rebecca almost smiled, "I have no idea. I spent 7 years hiding, pretending to be nobody, telling myself it was safer to stay invisible." "What changed?" "You did. You showed up bleeding out with a dog that wouldn't let you die, and I realized some things are worth being visible for. Braddock met her eyes, held them for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay, I'll testify. You're sure? No, but I'll do it anyway. Rebecca stood. The FBI will be here soon. Try to rest before they arrive. She walked out into the main room. Tommy and his contractors were gathered around the television, watching as more news broke. Deputy Attorney General announces investigation into Senator Carver. The screen showed a press conference. A gray-haired woman in a dark suit stood behind a podium. Based on credible evidence received tonight, she said calmly, the Department of Justice is opening a formal investigation into allegations of weapons trafficking, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice involving Senator Richard Carver and Redstone Security Solutions. We will pursue this investigation wherever it leads, without regard to political considerations. The press room exploded with shouted questions. The deputy AG walked off without answering. Tommy grinned. Your video just lit Washington on fire. Good. Rebecca pulled out her phone and texted Dawson. Federal protection arriving in 2 hours. Braddock's ready to testify. Make sure they're actually FBI and not Redstone contractors with fake badges. Dawson replied immediately. Already coordinating with Director Cross. Her people are legit. I'll have agents shadowing the convoy just in case. Rebecca felt some of the tension ease from her shoulders. Not all of it, but enough. 1 hour passed. Then 90 minutes. Then headlights appeared in the distance. 2 black SUVs, driving slowly, cautiously. Tommy's contractors took positions at windows, weapons ready. The vehicles stopped 50 yards out. Doors opened. 6 people emerged, 4 in tactical gear, 2 in suits. One of the suited figures held up a badge. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Here for Sergeant Braddock. Tommy stepped outside. Show me credentials. The agent approached, hands visible, moving slowly. Tommy examined the badge under a flashlight, checked identification, called Dawson to verify. Finally, he nodded. Clear. The agents entered. One of them was a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and graying hair tied back in a bun. She walked straight to Rebecca. Director Cross, we spoke on the phone. They shook hands. Sergeant Braddock's in the back room, Rebecca said. He's weak but coherent. I'll need you there during the interview. He trusts you. I'm not official. I'm not even supposed to exist. Cross smiled slightly. Neither is this investigation. We'll manage. They set up recording equipment in the bedroom. 2 cameras, professional lighting, a court reporter typing on a silent keyboard. Braddock sat up in bed, looking pale but determined. The dog stayed beside him. Cross sat across from him, her expression neutral but not unkind. Sergeant Braddock, I'm Director Patricia Cross. I need to ask you about what happened in Syria 3 months ago. Everything you remember. Take your time. Braddock took a deep breath. Then he started talking. He described the mission, recon operation, in a contested area, tracking weapon shipments to insurgent groups, following leads to an abandoned warehouse. He described finding the crates. U.S. military markings, equipment that should have been locked in Pentagon armories. He described seeing Carver there in civilian clothes, personally overseeing the loading. I thought it was a mistake at first, Braddock said quietly. Maybe some kind of authorized op we hadn't been briefed on. But then I heard them negotiating prices, talking about buyers in Yemen, Libya, Pakistan, and I realized what I was watching. Did you record this? Cross asked. Yeah, helmet cam, standard operating procedure for recon. What happened after? Braddock's voice tightened. We extracted, reported up the chain. 48 hours later, my team got new orders. Training exercise in an isolated location. No support, no backup. He paused. That's when they hit us. Drones. Precision strikes. Officially called it friendly fire, but there was nothing friendly about it. How did you survive? Got separated from the main group before the first strike. Tried to reach them, but he trailed off. I was the only one who made it out. And your helmet camera footage? Encrypted it. Sent it to a secure server before they could wipe my phone. Braddock looked at Cross directly. That video is real. Carver was there. I saw him. And he's been trying to kill me ever since to keep me quiet. Cross nodded slowly. Thank you, Sergeant. I know this wasn't easy, She stood and gestured for the cameras to stop recording. "That's enough for now," she said. "We'll need a formal deposition eventually, but this gives us what we need to move forward." Rebecca walked Cross out to the vehicles. "What happens now?" "Now?" Cross glanced back at the ranch house. "Now we take Carver down. It won't be fast. He's got lawyers, political allies, media connections, but we'll get him." "You sound confident." "I am. Because for once, we have a witness who's willing to fight back." Cross paused. "You should be proud, Captain. You kept him alive when everyone else wanted him dead." "I just did my job." "No, you went way beyond your job. You risked everything." Cross met her eyes. "The country needs more people like you." She climbed into the SUV. The convoy pulled away, red taillights disappearing into the darkness. Rebecca stood alone in the desert, watching them go. Tommy joined her. "Said, think they'll actually arrest him?" "Honestly, I don't know, but at least now there's a chance." They walked back inside. Most of the contractors had dispersed, returning to their watch positions. Garcia was cleaning up the medical equipment. Rebecca's phone buzzed. Text from Dawson. "News just broke. Carver's lawyer announced he's resigning from the Senate pending the investigation, effective immediately." Rebecca stared at the message. Then she started laughing. Not from happiness, from exhaustion, from relief, from the sheer absurdity of it all. Tommy read over her shoulder and grinned. "We did it?" "Not yet. Resignation isn't conviction." "No, but it's a start." Rebecca sat down heavily on the couch. Every muscle in her body ached. Her hands were scraped raw. Her head still throbbed from where Highland had slammed her into the wall. But Braddock was alive. The evidence was public. And Carver's perfect political career was crumbling. She closed her eyes. When she opened them again, dawn light was streaming through the windows. She'd fallen asleep on the couch without meaning to. Tommy was in the kitchen making coffee. He handed her a cup. "You snore, by the way." "Thanks for that." News has been running all night. Carver's in full crisis mode. 3 major law firms dropped him. His chief of staff quit. Even his own party's distancing themselves. Rebecca sipped the coffee. It tasted like burned dirt, but she didn't care. "What about Redstone?" "FBI seized all their files, arrested 7 executives, stock price dropped 90%. Highland? Still in custody, but his lawyers negotiating a deal, testify against Carver in exchange for reduced charges." Rebecca nodded slowly. "It's really happening." "Yeah, it really is." Her phone rang. Director Cross. "Captain Marsh, we have a problem." Rebecca's stomach dropped. "What kind of problem?" "Carver's gone. Left his house sometime around 4 a.m. Disabled his security system. His car's missing. We think he's running." "Where?" "We don't know, but if he gets out of the country, extradition becomes complicated, especially if he reaches somewhere without a treaty." "How long has he been gone?" 3 hours, maybe 4. Rebecca stood up fast. "Which direction was his house facing? What airports are close?" "His estate is north of Richmond. Closest private airfield is about 40 minutes away." Rebecca's mind raced. "He's not going to a major airport. Too much security. Too many cameras. He needs something small, somewhere he can bribe his way onto a plane." "We've got agents checking every private airfield in Virginia. Check Maryland, too, and Delaware. He's smart enough to drive farther to throw you off." "Already on it." Cross paused. "If you have any ideas where he might run, now's the time." Rebecca thought about everything she knew about Carver. His connections, his resources, his ego. "He won't go to a country without extradition," she said slowly. "He'll go somewhere he has leverage, somewhere the government owes him favors." "Like where?" "Wherever Redstone has active contracts, wherever he's provided weapons or support." Rebecca grabbed her laptop and pulled up a map. "What foreign governments has Redstone worked with in the past 5 years?" Cross rattled off a list. Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, several African nations, 3 South American countries. Rebecca's eyes landed on one name. Check flights to Kazakhstan. Redstone's been operating there since 2021, and Kazakhstan doesn't have an extradition treaty with the US. I'll have agents contact Kazakh authorities. Don't bother. If Carver's going there, it's because someone in their government already agreed to protect him. Cross swore under her breath. So we're screwed. Not yet. Rebecca stood and grabbed her jacket. Where's the closest FBI field office to here? Phoenix, why? Because I'm coming to you, and I'm bringing proof Carver won't walk away from. Cross's voice came through tight and controlled. What proof are you talking about? Rebecca was already moving toward the door, grabbing keys from Tommy. The dead nurse at Mercy General, she didn't just have cyanide, she had a phone. And phones leave traces even after people die. We already pulled her records. Burner phone, dead end. Did you check her smartwatch? Silence on the other end. Then, what smartwatch? She was wearing a fitness tracker when she died. I saw it. Those things sync to cloud servers automatically. If she made calls, sent texts, received instructions, it's all backed up somewhere. Cross swore. I'll get a warrant for the data. Meet me at the Phoenix field office in 90 minutes. Rebecca hung up and tossed the keys back to Tommy. I need Garcia, and I need him fast. Tommy didn't ask questions, just grabbed Garcia from the back room where he was checking Braddock's vitals one last time. What's going on? Garcia asked. You're good with tech, right? Medical devices, tracking systems, that kind of thing? Yeah, why? Because we're about to hack a dead woman's fitness tracker, and I need someone who won't ask stupid questions about legality. Garcia grinned. I'm your guy. They took Tommy's truck, leaving the contractors to secure the ranch house. Rebecca drove while Garcia worked his phone, pulling up cloud storage databases and fitness app protocols. What's the make and model? He asked. Looked like a FitTrack Pro, silver band, black face. Garcia's fingers flew across the screen. FitTrack syncs every 6 hours to their main servers. If she was wearing it when she died, the last sync would have been within hours of her death. Can you access it? Not legally. I didn't ask if it was legal. I asked if you could do it. Garcia looked up, meeting her eyes. Then he smiled. Yeah, I can do it. The Phoenix FBI field office was a concrete fortress on the edge of downtown. Rebecca badged through security using credentials Dawson had somehow arranged overnight. Garcia followed, carrying his laptop. Cross met them in a conference room lined with screens and encrypted phones. She looked like she hadn't slept. Dark circles under sharp eyes, coffee cup permanently attached to her hand. You're late, she said. Traffic. Rebecca gestured to Garcia. This is my tech specialist. He's going to pull data from the nurse's fitness tracker. Cross looked skeptical. We have forensic analysts who... Your analysts are filling out warrant requests. We don't have time for that. Rebecca leaned forward. Carver's been running for 5 hours. Every minute we waste is another mile between us and him. Cross studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded to Garcia. Show me what you've got. Garcia opened his laptop and connected to the field office's secure network. His fingers moved fast, bypassing security protocols and authentication screens like they were suggestions rather than barriers. FitTrack stores data on a distributed cloud system, he explained as he worked. Health metrics, location data, synced messages if the user enabled notifications. Most people don't realize how much information these things collect. A screen populated with rows of data, timestamps, GPS coordinates, heart rate patterns. Garcia zoomed in on the final 24 hours before the nurse's death. Here, look at this. He pointed to a spike in heart rate at 2:47 a.m., exactly when Braddock had been wheeled into Mercy General. She was stressed, adrenaline dump, classic pre-operation anxiety. Pre-operation? Cross asked. Military term. Rebecca moved closer to the screen. She knew she was about to execute. Keep going. Garcia scrolled through location data. The tracker showed the nurse arriving at the hospital at midnight, normal pattern for a night shift worker. But at 2:15 a.m., 30 minutes before Braddock arrived, she'd left the hospital briefly, walked 2 blocks to a parking garage, stayed there for 8 minutes, then returned. She met someone, Rebecca said. Garcia pulled up a map overlay. The parking garage belonged to a medical office building, closed at night, no security cameras according to city records. Perfect dead drop location, Cross muttered. Can you see who she met? Rebecca asked. No, but I can see what happened to her phone during those 8 minutes. Garcia pulled up cellular data. She received a call, lasted 43 seconds, then a text message. From who? Garcia's smile faded. Numbers encrypted, routed through international proxies. Whoever called her knew how to hide their identity. Cross's jaw tightened. So it's another dead end. Dead. Maybe not. Garcia zoomed in on the text message timestamp. The encryption's good, but it's not perfect. There's metadata attached to the message, server information, routing protocols. If I trace the proxies backward, he worked in silence for 5 minutes. Lines of code scrolled past faster than Rebecca could read. Then Garcia stopped, sat back. Got it. Got what? Got... The message originated from a phone registered to Redstone Security Solutions. Corporate account. Primary user. He pulled up employee records. Dr. Marcus Highland. Rebecca's hands clenched into fists. He gave her the orders, told her when to strike. More than that, Garcia opened the text message itself. The encryption was stripped away now, revealing plain text. Target arriving 0245. IV line access window 0300 to 0315. Failsafe protocol if compromised. Failsafe protocol, Cross said quietly. The cyanide. She was a professional killer, Rebecca said, trained to die rather than talk, which means Highland didn't hire her off the street. Redstone sent her. Cross pulled out her phone and made 3 calls in rapid succession. By the third one, her voice had turned to steel. I want Highland in an interrogation room. Now. No lawyer, no negotiation. Tell him his deal's off the table unless he gives us Carver's location in the next 30 minutes. She hung up and looked at Rebecca. Highland's been trying to cut a deal since we arrested him, offering testimony in exchange for reduced charges. But he's been holding back, claiming he doesn't know where Carver would run. He's lying. Obviously. But now we have leverage. Cross gestured to the screen. Evidence that he directly ordered a murder attempt on a federal witness. That's not conspiracy. That's hands-on assassination. Will he flip? He'll flip or he'll die in prison. Those are his options. Rebecca's phone buzzed. Text from Dawson. Your brother's secure. Got him and his fiancée into protective custody. They're safe. Some of the tension bled from Rebecca's shoulders. David was safe. That was something. Cross's phone rang. She answered, listened, her expression darkening. When? How long ago? She hung up and looked at Rebecca. Private plane left a small airfield outside Baltimore 40 minutes ago. Filed flight plan to Istanbul with refueling stop in Iceland. Passenger manifest? Business executive named Robert Carrington. But the photo on his passport looked suspiciously like Senator Richard Carver, with a beard and glasses. Rebecca pulled up a map on one of the screens. How long until he reaches Iceland? 3 hours. Once he is in Turkish airspace, extradition becomes exponentially harder. Can you ground the plane? Already tried. Icelandic authorities won't act without formal extradition paperwork. That takes days to process. So we're out of time. Cross's expression was grim. Unless we can give Iceland something they can't ignore. Hard evidence of violent crimes, murder, attempted murder, conspiracy to commit terrorism. Something so damning they'll detain him on humanitarian grounds while we file proper extradition. Rebecca looked at the screen showing Highland's text message. We've got evidence he ordered an assassination. That's not enough? It's enough to charge Highland, but connecting it directly to Carver requires testimony linking the chain of command, which brings us back to Highland. Then let's go talk to him. Cross led them through security corridors to the detention wing. Highland sat in an interrogation room, wrists cuffed to the table, his face still bruised from where Rebecca had hit him with the bedpan. When he saw Rebecca walk in behind Cross, his eyes went cold. No, he said. She assaulted me. I'm not talking with her present. You'll talk to whoever I tell you to talk to. Cross sat down across from him. Your deal's gone. We have evidence you ordered the assassination of Sergeant Braddock. Highland's lawyer, a sleek woman in an expensive suit, leaned forward. What evidence? You can't possibly... Garcia slid a tablet across the table, showing the decrypted text message. Your client's phone. Your client's orders. Your client's murder plot. The lawyer's face went pale. She looked at Highland. Is this real? Highland said nothing. Dr. Highland, Cross said quietly, you're looking at life in federal prison. No parole. No deals. You'll die behind bars. She paused. Unless you give us something we want more than you. Like what? Like where Senator Carver is right now, and proof he ordered you to kill Braddock. Highland's jaw worked, calculating, weighing options. If I tell you I need full immunity, no charges, witness protection. You just tried to murder someone in a hospital. There's no immunity for that. Then I've got nothing to say. Rebecca moved forward, pushing past Cross to lean over the table. 4 soldiers are dead. A nurse took cyanide in front of me. And you're sitting here playing games because you think you've still got leverage. I do have leverage. Without my testimony, you can't prove Carver ordered anything. We don't need your testimony. We need his location. Rebecca's voice dropped. And if you don't give it to us, I'm going to make sure every inmate in whatever federal prison you end up in knows you're a cop killer. See how long you last? That's a threat. That's a promise. Highland's lawyer tried to intervene. You can't... Shut up, Highland said. He stared at Rebecca for a long moment. You really think you've won, don't you? You think exposing Carver changes anything? It exposes corruption. That's not nothing. It's everything and nothing. You take down Carver, someone else fills his spot. Redstone closes, another contractor opens. The system doesn't change. The system never changes. Highland leaned back in his chair. You're fighting a war you can't win. Maybe, but I'm still fighting. Something in Highland's expression shifted. Not respect, but recognition. Yeah, I can see that. He looked at his lawyer. Cut the deal. Full testimony. I'll give them everything. The lawyer started to protest. Highland silenced her with a look. Carver's flying to Istanbul, he said. But he's not staying there. Istanbul's just a layover. His final destination is Kazakhstan. He's got a villa outside Almaty under a shell company name. Redstone's been running protection contracts there for 3 years. He's got local government officials on payroll. How do you know this? Cross demanded. Because I helped arrange it. 6 months ago, when the investigation started heating up, Carver wanted an exit strategy. Somewhere he could disappear if things went wrong. Cross pulled out her phone and made another call. I need Kazakhstan's coordinates for a private villa outside Almaty. Start with Redstone's registered properties. She listened, her face hardening. Then she hung up. Kazakh authorities won't cooperate. They're claiming diplomatic immunity for anyone on their soil. They're protecting him, Rebecca said. Yeah, which means even if we prove he's there, we can't touch him. Highland smiled. Told you, system doesn't change. Rebecca stared at him, then at Cross, then at the screen showing Carver's plane moving steadily toward Iceland. And suddenly she understood. He's not in Kazakhstan yet, she said quietly. Cross looked at her. What? Carver's still in international airspace, still technically under U.S. jurisdiction if we can prove he's fleeing prosecution. Rebecca turned to Highland. When does his plane land in Iceland? 2 hours, maybe less? And Iceland will hold him if we give them evidence of violent crimes, crimes that justify immediate detention. We don't have that evidence, Cross said. Yes, we do. Rebecca gestured to Highland. He just admitted to conspiracy to commit murder on Carver's orders. Get that on record. Get Braddock's testimony on record. Combine it with the financial evidence and the video. Iceland won't be able to ignore that. Cross's eyes widened. You want to file emergency charges before the plane lands. I want to file charges that force Iceland to ground that plane and detain everyone on board until extradition's processed. That'll take coordination with State Department, Justice, international prosecutors. Then start coordinating. Rebecca looked at Highland. You said you'd testify. Do it now, on camera, everything Carver ordered you to do. Highland's lawyer tried one more time. My client needs immunity before... Your client needs to decide if he wants life in prison or a chance at reduction. Rebecca's voice was hard. Because that plane lands in 2 hours, and this offer expires the second Carver's feet touch Icelandic soil. Highland looked at Rebecca for a long moment. Then he nodded. Get your cameras. The next 90 minutes were chaos. Highland's testimony was recorded, transcribed, certified. Braddock's earlier testimony was packaged with medical evidence of the poisoning attempt. Financial records linking Carver to Redstone were compiled into a single damning document, cross-coordinated with prosecutors in 3 countries. Emergency motions were filed. Diplomatic channels were activated. And through it all, Rebecca watched the clock, watched Carver's plane move steadily across the Atlantic. With 40 minutes until landing, Cross received a call. She listened, her expression unreadable. Then she hung up and looked at Rebecca. Iceland's agreed to detain the plane. They're sending armed police to the runway. Anyone on that flight is going into custody until extradition's sorted. Rebecca's legs nearly gave out. They agreed? Your evidence package was persuasive. 4 dead soldiers, attempted murder of a federal witness, $3 billion in stolen weapons. Even Iceland's government can't ignore that. When will they arrest him? 37 minutes, assuming the plane doesn't divert. It won't. Carver doesn't know we've moved this fast. Cross pulled up a live satellite feed showing the plane approaching Icelandic airspace. They watched in silence as it descended, as it touched down, as police vehicles surrounded it on the tarmac. Rebecca's phone buzzed. Text from Dawson. CNN just broke the story. Carver detained in Iceland. FBI confirming charges filed. She looked up at the screens in the conference room. Every news channel was showing the same image. Senator Richard Carver in handcuffs, being led off a private plane by armed Icelandic police. His expensive suit was rumpled. His fake beard looked ridiculous. His expression was pure rage. But he was in custody. Cross let out a breath she'd been holding for hours. We did it. Rebecca couldn't speak, just watched as Carver was pushed into a police vehicle, watched as reporters swarmed the scene, watched as the man who'd killed 4 soldiers, who'd threatened her brother, who'd built an empire on corruption, watched as that man's empire finally collapsed. Garcia came up beside her. Hell of a thing. Yeah. You okay? Rebecca thought about that. Was she okay? She'd spent 7 years hiding, 3 years mopping floors and taking orders from people who treated her like furniture, 48 hours fighting for her life and someone else's. I'm getting there, she said. Cross's phone rang again. She answered, listened, her expression shifting from exhausted relief to something harder. Understood. I'll tell her. She hung up and turned to Rebecca. Hyland's lawyer just filed a motion to suppress his testimony. Claims coercion. Says you threatened him before he agreed to talk. Rebecca's stomach dropped. I did threaten him. I know. And now his lawyers are using that to invalidate everything he said. Cross rubbed her face. Without Hyland's testimony, we lose the direct connection between Carver and the assassination attempts. We still have the nurse's phone records, which Carver's lawyers will claim is circumstantial. Hyland acted alone. Carver had no knowledge. Cross looked at the screen showing Carver in custody. He'll still face weapons trafficking charges, but the murder conspiracy charges might not stick. So he gets away with killing 4 soldiers. Not gets away, just gets a lesser sentence than he deserves. Rebecca felt rage building in her chest. After everything, after all of it, Carver would still escape the worst consequences. But then something occurred to her. Hyland's testimony isn't the only testimony, she said slowly. Cross frowned. What do you mean? Tran, Dr. Monica Tran at Mercy General. She knew about the investigation. She tried to remove me from the hospital to protect Carver's operation. Rebecca pulled out her phone. And she's the kind of administrator who documents everything to cover her own ass. You think she has evidence? I think she has emails, calls, communication with Hyland about keeping the hospital secure, about ensuring the assassination went smoothly. Rebecca was already dialing Dawson. And I think she'll cooperate to avoid conspiracy charges herself. Dawson answered on the first ring. I'm watching the news. Carver's in custody. Nice work. We need Tran, right now, before her lawyers bury her in paperwork. What are you thinking? I'm thinking she's terrified and looking for a way out. Give her immunity in exchange for testimony. Everything she knows about Hyland and Carver's arrangement. On it. Dawson hung up. 2 hours later, Monica Tran sat in the same interrogation room where Hyland had been. She looked smaller somehow, less polished, her perfect administrator armor stripped away. I didn't know they were planning to kill anyone, she said quietly. I thought it was just surveillance, monitoring a patient with security concerns. You knew Hyland was dirty, Cross said. I knew he had connections I didn't ask questions about. That's not the same as knowing he was a murderer. He poisoned a patient in your hospital, and you tried to have the one person who could stop him removed from the building. Tran's hands shook. I made mistakes. I was trying to protect the hospital's reputation, avoid a scandal. You were protecting yourself. Rebecca leaned forward. But you can still fix this. Tell us everything you know about Highland's communications. Every conversation, every email, every hint that Carver was involved. Tran looked between them, calculating, weighing her options the same way Highland had. Finally, she nodded. I'll testify. But I want full immunity and protection. Done, Cross said immediately. Tran pulled out her phone and opened her email. Highland sent me this 3 days before Sergeant Braddock arrived. I saved it because I thought it was strange. She turned the phone around. The email was brief. Patient arriving Thursday night. VIP case. Senator Carver personally interested in outcome. Ensure complete discretion. No complications. Rebecca's pulse quickened. That's direct connection. Carver's name attached to the operation. There's more. Tran scrolled through other emails. Highland sent follow-up messages after Braddock survived, saying Carver was furious, demanding immediate resolution. Why didn't you report this? Cross demanded. Because Senator Carver controls military health care funding. One call from him and Mercy General loses $50 million in federal contracts. Tran's voice was bitter. You think hospitals operate on ethics? We operate on money. And Carver had all of it. Cross took the phone and photographed every email. This is enough. Combined with Braddock's testimony and the financial records, we can prove Carver ordered the assassination. Rebecca felt something unlock in her chest. Not relief. Not yet. But possibility. They spent 6 more hours building the final case. By evening, federal prosecutors had compiled enough evidence to file expanded charges: conspiracy to commit murder, obstruction of justice, witness tampering, and weapons trafficking. Iceland agreed to hold Carver for extradition. Kazakhstan withdrew its offer of diplomatic protection after international pressure. And Redstone Security Solutions declared bankruptcy, its executives facing their own criminal trials. Rebecca stood outside the FBI building as the sun set over Phoenix. Her phone buzzed constantly, news outlets wanting interviews, old military contacts reaching out, messages from people she'd thought she'd never hear from again. She ignored most of them, but one call she answered. Becca? David's voice, shaky but alive. They told me you saved my life, that someone was coming for me. You're safe now. Are you? Rebecca looked out at the city, lights coming on as darkness fell. Getting there. The agent said you've been alive this whole time, that you faked your death. It's complicated. I've got time. Sarah and I are in protective custody for another week. Nothing but time. Rebecca smiled despite everything. I'll explain. When this is over. I promise. When will it be over? Soon. Maybe. David laughed, a sound she hadn't heard in 7 years. I missed you. Even when I thought you were dead, I missed you. I missed you too. They talked for another 20 minutes. Surface things mostly, catching up on lost time. By the end, Rebecca's throat was tight and her eyes burned. I love you, David said before hanging up. Come home when you can. I will. She hung up and stood there holding her phone. Tommy found her a few minutes later. Braddock's asking for you, he said. They drove back to the ranch house. Braddock was sitting up in bed now, color returning to his face. The dog's tail wagged when Rebecca entered. Heard you got him, Braddock said. We got him. The others too? Highland? The Redstone executives? All of them. It's going to take months to sort through trials, but they're going down. Braddock nodded slowly. My team. They died for this. They died because corrupt people wanted to protect their corruption. That's not on you. Feels like it is. I know. Rebecca sat down beside the bed. But you made sure their deaths meant something. You recorded what you saw. You fought to stay alive. You testified even when you didn't have to. That matters. Braddock's jaw tightened. What happens to me now? Witness protection if you want it. New identity, new life. Or you go back to your unit with a full security detail. Your choice. What would you choose? Rebecca thought about 7 years of hiding, of being nobody, of the safety and suffocation of invisibility. I'd choose to live, she said. Whatever that means for you. Braddock stroked the dog's head. Yeah, maybe I will. Maybe I... 3 weeks later, Rebecca stood outside Mercy General Hospital in scrubs that actually fit. Her old nursing aide credentials had been replaced with something new, Contracted trauma consultant. Temporary position. Decent pay. No mopping. Staff members she'd worked with for 3 years suddenly knew her name. Doctors who'd ignored her now asked for her input. Even the residents showed something resembling respect. It was weird, uncomfortable, but not bad. Dr. Sandra Walsh, the older ICU nurse who'd questioned Rebecca the night everything exploded, found her in the break room. "Heard you're famous now," Sandra said. "Heard wrong. I just did my job." "Your job was supposed to be restocking supplies." Sandra poured coffee. "What you did was take down a senator. There's a difference." "Someone had to." "Yeah, but most people don't." Sandra sat down across from her. "I've been working here 18 years. Know how many times I've seen someone stand up to power? Really stand up, risking everything? I don't. Zero. Never. Not once." Sandra met her eyes. "What you did matters. Don't minimize it." Rebecca didn't know what to say to that, so she just nodded. Her phone buzzed. Text from Dawson. "Carver formally extradited. Trial date set for January. They want you to testify." She typed back, "I'll be there." Another text came through, this one from Cross. "Braddock's doing well. Returned to active duty with his unit. Requested the dog be officially reassigned to him as service animal. Request approved." Rebecca smiled at that. Some good news, at least. She finished her shift and walked out into the evening air. The parking lot was full of hospital staff heading home, families visiting patients, ambulances bringing in new emergencies. Just another day at Mercy General. But different now. Because people knew what happened here. Knew a senator had tried to murder a witness. Knew a nursing aide had stopped him. Knew the system could be fought. And sometimes, if you fought hard enough, you could win. Rebecca climbed into her car, still the same old Honda, still barely running. But she'd kept the panic button Dawson had given her, kept the scalpel, kept the instincts that had kept her alive. Just in case. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her. "Captain Marsh?" A woman's voice, professional, controlled. "Who's asking?" "My name is Colonel Patricia Harris. I run JSOC's Special Personnel Recovery Unit. I'm calling about your employment status." Rebecca's pulse quickened. "I'm not active duty anymore." "I'm aware. I'm also aware you spent 7 years in hiding after being declared KYA, and that you just prevented the assassination of a federal witness while evading a sitting senator's kill teams." Harris paused. "That's an impressive resume. What do you want?" "To offer you a job, real job, not contracting. Full military reinstatement with back pay and benefits. Position as Senior Medical Instructor for Special Operations Combat Medics." Rebecca sat in silence, processing. "Why me?" "Because you survived impossible situations. Because you kept someone alive when every system designed to protect him failed. Because soldiers like Braddock need medics who won't quit no matter what." Harris's voice softened slightly. "And because you've earned the right to stop hiding." "I need to think about it." "Take your time. The offer's open-ended." Harris gave her a contact number. "For what it's worth, Captain, it's good to have you back." She hung up. Rebecca sat in her car, staring at the hospital where she'd spent 3 years being nobody, where she'd saved Braddock's life, where everything had changed. She could take Harris's offer, go back to the military, train the next generation of combat medics, use her experience to keep soldiers alive. Or she could stay here, keep consulting, stay close to David and Sarah, build a life that wasn't defined by war. Both options felt possible now. That was new. I mean, the old Becca wouldn't have hesitated. She'd already know exactly what she was doing 3 moves ahead. Tommy grinned. "The new Becca. She's okay with not knowing. That's growth." Rebecca punched his shoulder. "Shut up. Make me." They stayed until last call, trading stories, laughing about near-death experiences that weren't funny at the time but somehow were now. Being alive together in a way that mattered. When Rebecca finally left, the city was quiet. Streetlights cast long shadows. Somewhere, David and Sarah were sleeping safely. Somewhere, Braddock was healing. Somewhere, Carver was sitting in a cell counting down days until his trial. And somewhere, a nursing aide nobody had respected was now someone people remembered. Not because she'd been perfect, not because she'd followed every rule, but because when it mattered, When lives were on the line and systems failed, she'd refuse to look away. Rebecca drove home with the windows down, night air cold against her face. Tomorrow she'd call Harris back. Tomorrow she'd visit David. Tomorrow she'd decide what came next. But tonight, she just drove. And for once in her life, that was enough. Because being nobody had taught her something important. The people nobody sees are the ones who see everything. The ones nobody respects are the ones who fight hardest for respect. And the ones nobody believes in are sometimes the only ones worth believing in at all. Rebecca Marsh had spent 7 years being invisible. Now she knew that invisibility wasn't weakness. It was a weapon. And she'd used it to bring down an empire. Not bad for a nursing aide who just wanted to keep people alive.